Well, it's like the pendulum effect that people talk about. Like it will swing one way for a certain amount of time, and then next thing you know, it gets swung, like over swings in the opposite direction. Like abuse is bad, but it's like we've now swung it completely to the other direction, to where it's like,
Yes.
well, if you're just arguing, then clearly you're not meant to be. Yeah, I had issues with this since like 2017. They would like randomly flare up, but it happened once when I was in Sydney with Pete. I was supposed to meet you guys. Woke up in like debilitating pain, and he ended up calling an ambulance, and right before he got ready to call, the pain got so bad I passed out onto the floor. And then when I worked with Kai, he kind of opened me back up. So it was like I saw that first, and then I got introduced to the golden era, and then started going back and researching what they did and seeing how much it had changed between when that era ended, and then you had like you said, the 90s, like the 2000s.
She's an artist, poses naked, her back to us, quite the booty. Emotions and desires run high. Her second language is posing. Kai Greene's name mentioned, possibly a drop. Winner, achieves against adversity. Came down under, went and saw the sights, monumental poses at different sites, and even gave our hospital system a visit. But no posing there. Please help me welcome, perceived as vulnerable, 2023 Joe Wider Olympia Amateurs winner, winner in many, winner in life, Robbi Jenkins.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Was that okay intro?
Yeah, I will say I didn't win the Olympia. I got second, but
that's good, because I think I wasn't sure. But you know what? Let's start at the top and work our way backwards.
all right.
Because that's how I saw you. I saw you as a winner. So, and you know what? I'm going to blame Peter Hardwick, because I think Peter told me you won it. So let's just, if Peter, you're watching this, it's your fault. It's your fault. Okay, let's start with this. Okay. Hospital. Scary family DNA. Probably this word cancer. No. Good outcome. Heaps of posing on IG at the moment. I'm just doing what everything's happened in the last week. You got me at Kai Greene. That's why I had to share your post. Heaps of emotions. Who the fuck is who is the God-loving Robbi Jenkins? Can you please stand up and tell us who she really is? Explain Robbi to the world. Who the hell's Robbi?
Well, I am. I'm just a small town girl living in Charlotte. I actually grew up in a really small town in Illinois. People tell me they're from a small town all the time, and then I'll ask them how many people, and they're like, oh, like 20,000. I'm like, it's 2,900 people, one stoplight. Like, that's small. So it's like 20,000. Like, get the crap out of here.
I love it. Keep going.
Yeah, like that was like the big cities for me growing up. But yeah, I grew up in small town. Parents were together like my whole life, still together. My dad had like a really interesting turnaround. So my mom always brought me up in church. My dad, he wasn't a believer until I was probably about 7 or 8. And then by the time I was 13, he was preaching. So I then became a preacher's kid. So people get a kick out of that when they find that bit out.
Yeah.
But I never did sports or anything growing up. I was in band. I did a little bit with like drama clubs and stuff in high school, but I never really did anything with fitness. I would kind of like maybe dabble in like a community sport, but I never really did it to expect to be like good at it. It was more just I had friends doing it, so I would do it with them. It wasn't until I was getting ready to go to college, and so I had to basically pay my way through school. So my parents, it was like they made enough in the States to where I couldn't get financial help, but they didn't make enough to where like they could actually really afford to help. So I was like stuck in that middle position of having to figure it out. So
Do we call that middle class?
yeah.
Pretty much, isn't it?
Working
There you go.
middle class, working class.
We've just found out what middle class means.
Oh yeah.
Well, in your explanation, that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's changed probably even since I was a kid. Things are weird here. But no, I got a 4-year scholarship to get me through school, and it was through a military program. So I would go through, they call it the Reserve Officer Training Corps. And so I would do that alongside going to school to get a 4-year degree, which I did in exercise science, and then did not use it at all. So for a while, there was about almost 7 years. It was like just under 7 years. I went into the military after I graduated. That was like the part of the deal. They'd pay for your degree, but then you would become an officer in the military. And so I actually spent a decent amount of time in the aviation community. And so I don't talk about it a ton, but I actually flew helicopters while I was in the military.
You flew them?
Mm-hmm.
What was your nickname? Were you Viper, Goose, Maverick?
No,
Maybe you were.
I feel like that was more of like
Gaines. Maybe they called you Gaines. They called you Gaines.
One of my pilots, because when I got back into bodybuilding, I got introduced to it when I was in college. I didn't take it like super seriously, but when I got back into it, probably 2019, I had a pilot that I really, really liked, and he was just really cool guy, super down to earth, and he used to call me Beefcake. So I had that as my nickname.
Beefcake. All right, so you flew choppers. Look, you know what? We could talk about that forever, but only because we're talking bodybuilding. I guess we're going to get to the bodybuilding part. But I'm going to get to the bit when you started bodybuilding, but knowing this is good. So I've changed a few things now for 2024. I've introduced 3 topics. One is a philosophical quote that I'm going to talk to you now, and then I've got some hot topics. So let's start with this one, Aristotle.
Thank you everyone for supporting us on Muscle Talks podcast. What I'd really like is for you guys to hit the subscribe button. Why hit the subscribe button? It just lets us get a bigger reach, a bigger audience, and also some of the greatest guests. You've probably already seen we've had a few Olympians on, and we're striving to actually get right up there on the 1, 2s, and 3s. Yes, possibly even C-Bum on here. So guys, subscribe, come on a journey with us with Muscle Talks. Now let's get back to the podcast.
Aristotle.
Okay.
Aristotle once quote, possibly fitting the podcast today, that's why I put it in. You will never do anything in the world without courage. It is the greatest quality of the mind next to honor. What do you think that means?
I think it means that if you're not willing to, like, it's really easy for us, like we have what's called the American dream, where people will talk about living in the system, and it's like you grow up, you go to school, you work your 9-to-5 job, you get married, you have kids, you do all these things, and those aren't bad things at all, by any means. And for some people, that's what they want out of life, and like if that's what they want and that's what they pursue, like that's great. But I feel like there's so many people that they want something bigger than that, or they have like a passion or a desire that's much greater than that, that's outside of that line. But it takes a certain amount of courage and willingness to put up with the trials that are going to happen and endure through those in order to get to the other side to achieve whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve. And so I feel like he's saying that if you're not willing to do that, then it's like you can't really expect to get those kind of things. Like the only people that are really going to have that are the people that have the willingness to have the courage to go through the process that it takes to get there.
I like that. I'll just quickly ask Chris, since Chris can listen to it. What do you reckon, Chris?
I like that as well.
You like what she said as
Yeah,
well?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God, there you go. Well, for me, I guess, just quickly, I find courage is a funny word. And it's not just about honor. I think honor is something that can leave us at many stages. Like you're on to the next project, you're on to the next war, you got a trail that you need to follow, and you've made it to a certain point, which gives you a bit of honor that you've made it. But I find courage, to me, it's the be all and end all of even being scared. I tell Chris, I've told many people, you can be scared, but never be afraid. Just don't be afraid. Be scared. Just don't be afraid. You have to go. Like, and courage gives you that. And that's how I feel with courage. It is an emotion of everything. You could be scared while being courageous, but be courageous. Like, just go and find out. And that's how I see that quote. So it's wonderful. We've started off with that. Now I'm going to go with the post you did it's kind of 8 days ago. Many of us have gone astray with the fundamentals of health. We look at the next drug, fad, latest and greatest, newest training strategy, when we just need to know the dang basics. You talk about when you were first competing and you didn't really eat fruit and veg. You made the process miserable and played havoc and messed up your health. Lacking micronutrients, helping with reproductive hormones and so on. So tell us more. And that is a great smoothie that you showed in the post.
Yeah, and I feel like it's starting to break, but there's this culture that we've had in bodybuilding forever where there's multiple mentalities that are going on. I feel like the biggest one is just like the grind mentality. And the thing is I think there's more to it. Like, people would come out with a grind mentality and think of it as like this, I'll sleep when I'm dead kind of deal. Like, you have to make things harder than what it needs to be. Otherwise, if you don't, like, you're not doing it right. And I feel like the older that I get, the older that I get.
I'm going to segue into Chris in a moment because it's something he said to me. But keep going. I'm listening. Keep going. Listening.
Yeah, the older I get, I find out that, like, it's just dumb. Like, you're wasting energy and you're wasting time if you're purposely making things harder for the sake of making things harder. So it's like when I hear people say, like, I'll sleep when I'm dead, it's like, well, you're going to be dead a whole lot faster. So, like, you'll get to that real soon in that case. But no, I had a coach. So when I got back into bodybuilding, like, really got back into it, it was 2019. I was in the last couple years of being in the military, and I had the pull toward it for a while. And it was just, I was at the point where I really couldn't just ignore the pull anymore. I missed it. And the very first coach that I had, I remember being kind of skeptical and like, I should have followed my gut, but he gave off this big speech about how he had the, like, secret recipe to win and all of this other stuff. And you have to do, you have to do everything I say the way that I tell you to do it. Well, the thing is, like, this fool doesn't know I went to school for exercise science. Like, I went through nutrition classes. Like, I went through classes where you talk about training and programming and volume. And
he probably doesn't even know that we've all watched Kung Fu Panda, and it says that I said there is no secret. But anyway,
so, like, he's telling me this, but, you know, it's like, whatever, I'll go with it. And it ended up being one of those very cookie cutter things that you hear about where you're only going to eat. And it was like tilapia or swai fish. Like, I don't even know what swai, like, is that actually a real thing? And then asparagus, and, like, you have to eat 8 asparagus spears. Don't eat any more than that because, like, you'll lose. Like, that kind of neurotic just bullshit. And that was kind of what I started with. And so when I finished that season, I decided I'd finish my season out with him, but, like, he wasn't the coach for me. And the biggest thing with that was I asked him, you know, why are we doing this? Or, like, why are you doing this? And he couldn't give me an answer. And he was like, well, you just need to do it because I said so.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, if you can't explain why, and, like, my coach that I have now, I'm sure is going to coach me till the day that I die. Him and I laugh about it all the time. He's like, I don't think we could find anybody that could coach you. And I don't think they, like, I don't think they could, like, he could either. But it's, like, for me, if I ask you a question and I'm asking, I'm not trying to like berate like you as a person or like belittle your knowledge, but I'm curious to know what it is. And like, if you can explain it, then I know like if you can back up your information, then like there's a good chance like you're being authentic about it. But if you can't, you come back with a defensive because I said so, and you start getting angry, like that tells me you don't know what you're doing. And
so you're kind of on the same page as me. You don't have many friends. I'm not saying you do or don't.
I have a very small circle.
Yeah, trust me. And even today I said to Chris, it's amazing you've lasted with me this long. But keep going, because I'm tenacious when it comes to finding out questions, and you've opened up a topic. We're going for it now. So go ahead.
Yeah. And so I did. I tried that. I did. I went to a different coach. He was a little bit better. Like he had a little bit more variety in my food and stuff, but this whole grind mentality came back when it came to prep. And the thing is, to an extent, yeah, like prep is a grind. It just is. Like when you're getting to body fat levels that low, like there is some grinding that goes into it. But he had me doing cardio, I think twice a day for almost 2 hours. And we're not talking like little bits of cardio. Like it was pretty intense, and I wasn't eating a lot, and I was training hard, and the volume that he had me at was absolutely ridiculous. And it wasn't like we're doing 5 sets of something and 3 of those you're warming up. It was, we're doing 5 sets to pretty much close to failure. So I got completely ran down. And so I ended up leaving him 6 weeks before a national show to go with my current coach. We'd been friends for a while at that point. And I think I remember talking to him, and he said he was like watching me get ran into the ground. And I was actually following like everything he was telling me to do to a T, and I wasn't dropping any more weight. And then I was still in the military at this point too. So I still had the stress of that going on as well, which now everybody's starting to realize how much stress is a huge factor in all of it. And so finally I went to go train a client. I was like transitioning out of the military. And so I had some people on the side that I was training to get ready for what I was going to do when I got out. And I had to stop the session mid-session because I started feeling nauseous and literally getting green in the face. And luckily she like worked for EMS, so she could tell like something was kind of off. And so she wasn't upset at all, like when we called it. And I drove home, and I barely made it into my driveway. As soon as I shut the car off and opened my door, I just threw up like everything. And for me, I don't do that often. Like usually if I'm at the point of throwing up, I'm actually really sick. And I just felt like my body was breaking down. And so I called my friend, who is Kenneth Allman. He coaches me now, and explained what was going on. But I just told him, I said, I think I'm going to leave this guy, because I tried to tell him, like I'm not feeling right. And he just told me, well, like we're so many weeks out, like you need to dig in deeper, like go harder. So it's like, I'm telling my coach, like, hey, like, I feel like I'm on the brink of death. Like something's really wrong. And he basically just kind of replied with, well, grind harder. And so I took a couple days. I went and bought like nothing crazy. Like I went and bought some more carbohydrates and like refed myself, but no like sugar added kind of stuff, like bland stuff. And started feeling a little bit better. Like once my head was less clear, I decided to like, there's a grind, but like my gut again is telling me like, this isn't the way to do it. Like this isn't the smart approach. And so I ended up leaving him, and then I jumped with my coach that I have now, and he has like completely changed the way I look at bodybuilding, off-season prepping, all that stuff.
Well, let's get his name. What's his name?
So his name's Kenneth Allman. If people try to find him on Instagram, he's at Foundry Training and Nutrition, I believe is his handle.
Foundry Nutrition on IG. So Chris, I think Chris has got I'm sure he will hear it. Can't you read it? Theodore Roosevelt. When he speaks about the man in the arena, have you heard that quote, the man in the arena? No? All right. There's Does it say it here, Chris, the man in the arena quote? No. Well, there's a quote that says, oh, how do I give it justice? Or I'll say it in layman's term. It's saying that you can sit in the crowd and you can judge the man in the arena, but for you are not the man in the arena facing the battle, like fighting against a man or fighting against a lion, whatever's going on in the arena. You're just a fucking spectator, and you think you can critique that person, you can judge that person, you can think you can do it better. Be the person in the arena. Let's see you do that. But Chris found or brought up a topic that he posted that said that, and where do you think I can abbreviate it down quicker? I know it's there. Just start here. Okay. So it goes, it's a cliche that Theodore Roosevelt, that wrote this, the man in the arena speech, which lionesses, the one whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, compared with the critic who sits in the sideline. Roosevelt gave that speech shortly after he left office. At the height of his popularity in a few years, he would run against his former blah, blah, blahs in the White House. He would also nearly die exploring the river Amazon, killing thousands of African animals. Like, he's just talking about his time in office. But Theodore sort of was truly a great man, but he also driven by compulsion and work and actively addicted.
Are you fat up or fed up? Tired of boring food? We just cooked this from our What Should I Eat cookbook. It's also on an ebook, making it more affordable for you. So,
get your copy at threeog.shop.
So what you're saying is, we all believe we have to be the person in the arena, but we don't. We don't have to grind. Success isn't that. But it's this fine line. Am I saying it correctly? It's this fine line that, yes, some bits we always talk about, you've got to be scarred. You're going to be bashed. You're going to be bloody, but you've won. You've gotten through. Or don't be the critic. But the thing is, maybe you don't want to be scarred, and maybe you don't want to be the critic. Does that mean you're not going to succeed? So the thing is, in life, it's not always about the grind. We believe it's the grind, but if you had a choice, if I said to you, Robbi, I guarantee you success 2 ways. He said, what are they, Steve? The grind or not the grind, but the same success. You're going to choose not the grind. And that's why we always seem to believe, no, that can't be true. It's true. We just got to look for it. And I think that's what you're possibly in your speech right now, why I got Chris to grab it, was,
You can read that quote, that's something.
all right, this quote up here. I don't agree with those who plunge headlong into the middle of the flood and who, accepting a turbulent life, struggle daily in great spirit with difficult circumstances. The wise person will endure that, but won't choose it, choosing to be at peace rather than at war. Isn't it true?
Yeah.
So anyway, I knew we'd go deep with you. I knew it. But I see your point. And when Chris posted that only about 2 weeks ago, it was like a slap in the face, because I'm like you and like everyone. I fucking hate the grind. I'll do the grind. I'll try my fucking heart out, but can I have a break and keep going? I just need a break. I just don't want to grind. You know what I mean? I don't want to grind.
Well, I feel like the biggest thing that I've had to learn. So this last season, I would say, is the most successful season that I've had. The leanest that I ever got, it was probably, I would say, as far as like getting blood labs done post show, those were not only like the best labs I've ever had post show, those are the best labs I've ever had in my life when it comes to bodybuilding. So even grinding down to the point of like, or like getting shredded down to the point of 5 or 6% body fat. Like we did it in such a way, like we did it efficiently and effectively, and like using knowledge, like functional health knowledge, to where when we came out of that, like my body only took me a month to get back into functioning place. Like, you know, I got my cycle back. I got like my thyroid function was beautiful. Like it, any of the big things that are usually just completely thrashed for a little bit and you have to take time to get them up. I mean, it was 6 weeks, I think, post show, I got my labs done. And it was because we just did the basics. So we didn't do this, we didn't do the cookie cutter stuff. Like I had vegetables, I had fruits, I had starchy carbohydrate sources, I had multiple different kinds of proteins. And basically it was like I had a meal that would have a leaner protein source in it, and then I would have a meal that would have like a natural fattier source in it. So whether it was like beef and salmon or some sort of fattier source of meat there, or then I would do like a chicken or some sort of white fish that's got a little less fat content in it, or shrimp or something like that. But like I could choose. I didn't have to be stuck to eating, you have to eat this exact food and this exact thing. And if you eat any of these things, you're going to lose. We didn't pull my carbohydrate sources completely out until the last 3 weeks. I think the last 3 weeks of prep, I was on like protein and veggies. But up until that point, I was still eating fruit. And then up to like 5 weeks out, I was still eating rice and potatoes and all of that stuff. And it was because what we were doing instead is we were getting all those micronutrients in. So it was, my body was getting fed things that it needed so it could fire better. I was getting sleep like I was supposed to. I was drinking water like I was supposed to. And then we didn't stress my body out more with crazy like HIIT cardio or strenuous cardio. He had me walk outside. I had a 15,000 step goal, and like that is what we did. So now I look at prep even as not a grind. It's just a 20-week phase of stress management. And we had the best showing that I've ever had on stage.
Yeah, you looked amazing. God, you were sporting quite the haircut. I don't know if it was at one stage I thought, you know, you were one of the characters from Avatar.
Yeah, I loved it. It was because the way that I pose. So the way that I pose, I can't wear my hair down. Like I don't want to have to think about what I'm doing with my hair, getting it out of the way. So I knew I wanted to wear it up, but then I also didn't want to just do something plain like a bun because that's boring. Like I got the little side shave, so like the bun's not really even gonna look like, it would just look weird. So I started looking at Viking haircuts or different styles of like Viking haircuts. Yeah. And so we tried to do, it was like a French braid that we were trying to do, but it just wouldn't stick in my hair. So then that was when the other thing came out, was like the other style. So it was something similar. They just did it different. So that way they would get my hair to stay. And I loved it. So I was like, oh, this feels completely like me. And so I just kept it. When I went into the Olympia, I was like, nope, I'm gonna do the same hairstyle all over again.
Well, it definitely suited you. I couldn't work out who you were though, meaning there was very many shades to that look that you had going on. So I couldn't see through all the shades that you created in yourself. So you're very mysterious, definitely focused, but not so revealing. It was, like I said, it was just more, I think somehow, you know, I think you put on a great show to just show off the body and the art of the posing, and you kind of took out your personality or whoever you were. We did not know who you were. We didn't know if you have a faith with God, whatever it was, whatever was going on, you just came out in character. And I think it's what we want people on stage. I know when I go watch theatre, to be captivated by someone's performance is more than just alone them playing that character, but them taking me in with them. Like, who is that person? You know what I mean? So you did an amazing job.
I don't think it was so much hiding, because I feel like what I brought to the stage when
I'm not saying hiding, like I'm not saying you were hiding. I'm not saying you didn't. What I'm saying is I think whatever character you were bringing on the day, you said you were bringing the Viking haircut, what you wanted, the look, the body. I think you delivered onto that on point. I don't think you were just coming out to be Robbi Jenkins. I think you were coming out to be the champion that's confident on stage, the individual, the hard work, like everything. I'm just telling you, going on stage and you doing a posing routine, and trust me, you, Pete, Sensei, some of you people are like, I'm in love with you guys, with your posing. So when I see you get on stage and you do your thing, I think that's where bodybuilding has, well, I'll segue to this, where I think bodybuilding lost its way. Back in the 70s and 80s, bodybuilders will go to ballerina courses like Arnold did with Frank Colombo. What I'm trying to say to you is that this is going to sound bad because I said it last time on the last podcast. Forgive me if I say the word gay. I'm not saying gay like gay is feminine to me. Let's say feminine. So if a guy does it, it's a bit feminine. Maybe I call it gay. But hear me out. Most guys to sit there and do these guys now that are showing off the like Peter Hardwick, Sensei Kai, this other guy Kyle, I don't know what his name is. There's a few people out there. These guys are phenomenal. They're like ballerinas. I mean, it's really incredible stuff. And I felt there was a period in the 90s and the 2000s where it just was about mass and overwhelming on the stage. It wasn't grace. It was just hitting it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it, hit it. There was no, does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. No, I mean, what's crazy is I actually didn't follow anything with like the golden era all that much. It wasn't until I worked with Kai Greene that he started telling me about, and not just the men, but like the different women, like Corey Eversons and stuff, where I started going back and looking at their posing. A lot of what I saw initially was just watching the current guys like Terrence Ruffin or watching Rachel Daniels and seeing what they did. And it was because up until I saw them, it was very similar. I didn't think I could ever compete in women's physique because it just looked kind of cheesy to me. Most of the routines that I saw, they looked cheesy and goofy. And it's just like, why? Like, why are we doing this? This looks kind of silly. But I saw them do it in such a way where you would see them strike beautiful poses while they were moving. But yet, as they were moving, whatever music that they were moving to, it was like they actually meshed up with it. Like they were telling the story with their body that the music was telling with the lyrics, or it was telling it with the soundtrack. And so when I saw those things for the first time, I was like, that is what I want to do. I could see myself wanting to do something like that. And then when I worked with Kai, he kind of opened me back up. So it was like, I saw that first, and then I got introduced to the golden era and then started going back and researching what they did and seeing how much it had changed between when that era ended. And then you had like you said, the 90s, like the 2000s, where it just kind of stalled for a little bit.
Yeah, it was. It stalled. I could tell you where it stalled. It stalled at what a great bodybuilder. Let me just start with that. But it stopped at Dorian Yates. From the era of Dorian Yates, Lee Haney going back was different. Dorian Yates going forward, it became real big mass monsters. Like it just started. You went to another level. Even I thought it was unattainable what I saw going back to Lee Haney and going further back. But yeah, it just became like a freak, and it's a bit of a freak show. But I'm just seeing you guys on stage now dance, like the grace, the dance, the posing. It's so refreshing that I said to Peter Hardwick, they should have a point system for that, and it should help you to win a comp. That maybe not completely, but it should have a point system that you actually put so much work in to entertain us and to entertain the paid crowd, because that's what you guys are, you're entertainers, that there should be a point system that says we've never seen anything like that. That is phenomenal. Thank you so much for elevating the sport to this grace. And that's what I think. Whether they do it or not, I don't know. That's how I feel.
So I talked to one of my friends about this the other day, because there's like a big group of us that I'm friends with that really love posing that have kind of gone back and forth about it. And he had said something similar, but something else that they have, and some shows are starting to bring it back. They had the guest poser awards.
Oh.
And I told him what I think would be a great balance would be as if they would bring guest posing awards to every show.
Mm.
The only thing that makes me nervous is if they do a point system. I'm afraid of the routines getting too restricted and too boxed in to where then people start to lose their creativity. But if you get like a cash prize, like especially even at like the amateur level too, because we don't win anything. Like if we win, we get a medal and maybe we get like a bag with some goodies in it. Maybe we don't. It just depends on the show. But then if you get like a guest posing award that actually has a cash prize attached to it, well, heck yeah, people are going to want to win that money. So then that might get some of their creative juices flowing, but then you don't have to worry about possible just like politics of a point system in the guest posing routine. But,
Yeah, no, I see your point. No, I see your point. Look, I think, look at me, I'm going to act like I know everything. I was telling Chris, we were talking about it yesterday. Do you know there's been a lot of sports like the NFL. I don't know about the NFL, but I can tell you about the cricket. I can tell you about sports in Australia, and I can tell you some sports around the world. There's always been a rebel sport, because a rebel sport turned around and decided to pay the athletes more money. And because federations had to hand over all the copper, all the money, players were going to the new rebel competitions because there was money to be made. They actually were getting paid accordingly. And you never know with bodybuilding because it's an expensive sport. And I don't think, all that work for C-Bum to earn 50K at the end of the year, who actually brings in a lot of media and attention to the sport. Imagine someone turning to C-Bum, let's just say hypothetically, says to C-Bum, come and compete, and the prize is $500,000. Imagine that, and the work, but you still have to put the work in, but it's a $500,000 prize. I mean, what would C-Bum think? He'd sign on the dotted line saying, I'm going to that federation because, one, I guess Olympia is Olympia, but you're telling me this is not Olympia, this is Grand Prix. This is like, I can go to this to win exponentially life-changing money in my life, and the amount of food, the dieting, the massages, the people, the coaching staff, the this, the that, the things that I put in to just turn up onto a stage. You're telling me, I'm just saying to you, could you imagine that a rebel competition comes along and just says all the sponsorship money is going to be divided into the players, into the competitors. And that's what happened. That's what happened to tennis. That's what's happened to, maybe not tennis. That's what happened to the cricket. The cricket worldwide, there was rebels. We had rebel sports here, and in the end, players. Listen, I'll tell you now, players went from earning $50,000 a year and having to have a job to be a professional sportsman, to players now earning 1.2 million a year or a season. So in other words, it didn't jump double. It went what the fuck happened here? It just goes to show you how much money was in the sport, but the federations were keeping it in their coffer. They were having a good time, but someone turned around and said, you know what, I'm going to do a rebel rugby league side. And he signed all the best. He took them, I think at the time, from $50,000 a year. You had to have a job as well, to full-time sportsman, full-time, and you're earning $250,000 a year. The sport, it erupted, and it was great. And now all players earn big dollars and are full-time. So I don't know if that can happen in bodybuilding. I'm just putting it out there. I don't know.
I think it could. I'd be lying if I said I haven't had that thought, but that's all I'll say with that so far.
Okay, well, wait, let's not go in it before the Federation shuts this whole podcast down. 7 days ago, see on your post, we're going with your post, CDBGFX Media mentions you. We miss you, Robbie. The reels of you are the most viewed. Those years you broke the gram. Yo, what should you do next? Yeah, because I've basically had a perf, had a look. And there you are, you know, nice little bum shot with your back, and there you are, you know, that's a great shot. Then we've got this, I think, these American kind of gym shorts or whatever you're wearing style, you know. So tell us about that. Tell us about that period of your life where you definitely could have gone OnlyFans if you wanted to.
So it's been really funny when I started doing that. I actually used to be, and I still kind of am, but like really awkward in front of the camera. Even still, if I'm doing still photos or something like that, just naturally posing for a camera, it's not something that I was ever great at. And so there was a photographer in Virginia Beach that I started shooting with, and absolutely amazing, super professional, super down to earth. I'm still friends with him to this day. I went and shot with him earlier this year too. And I stepped into doing some nude modeling for a little bit, but I'm kind of at the point now where it's like one with the relationship that I've got. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. And then
how do you do it? Let me, because Chris is a photographer. I'm going to get both of you into the conversation. Chris, have you taken pictures of naked girls? How do you do it professionally? And you, how do you? Well, let's hear from Chris. How do you?
I don't know that. I'm joking. I don't know. I don't know.
Like, do you just look once and then turn away and that's it? Enough is enough. Get back to the camera. Or you just stick to the camera.
You look all the time.
You look all the time, yeah.
Yeah, but it's. I don't know how to explain that.
So what? I think
it becomes more of a job if you have.
Yeah, that's what I think Chris is saying. It just becomes more of a job. Go ahead, but you're the one that's.
Yeah, there's some people out there that take advantage of it, and they want to just call themselves a photographer, and really they're just perverted, and they want to take shots of naked women. Like,
was one of my pickup lines at the bar sometimes.
But
yours one is real. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very particular anymore, even with the guy that posted that post. I think there's only one photographer now. Like, I might still do some like nude shoots, but even if I did them, I don't really think I'd post them anymore. And then, like I said, now when I shoot, like if I'm like super stage lean, maybe I'll put something on that like will reveal more, especially if I'm stage lean, just because the human body is so cool. But I also, especially now and getting a little bit more maturity, and then just the way my face changed and stuff too, like there's also a really classy way to do it. And like, that's something that I always tried to do, even when I dabbled in it a little bit more. But it was like, you'll have some girls that will do these nude photos and stuff. But when they present it on Instagram, it's very like, try to get attention, look at me. Like, there's nothing deeper to that photo at all. So it's like, if we can't pose it in a way that's classy, if we can't find some actual like deeper something that we can connect to what this can represent, it's like, I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to have a thirst trap Instagram. Like, that's just not me.
I think, all right, I'm going to go with your shot. Let me go with your shot, the one with your back and your bottom, right? And you'll see a bit of your hammies there, but that's a great shot. But when I look at that shot, I'm just letting you know, when I look at that shot, I realize there is thought behind the location in some ways, right? So the location complements, like you don't focus on the background, you're focusing on you. So there's not a lot of noise. Let's just say that. I'm trying to remember, there's not a lot of noise. I find you're either going to go for it or not go for it. You've got nothing in between. So in other words, if you're going for it, make it artistic, go for it. Everything, the background, the scenery, the moment, the time, the headspace, everything. I just think, but if you're just, like you said, or like I know too, that you're going for followers, grams, likes, present, just don't do it, because it comes across that way. Because and I think that's what's happening for me at the moment. I'll tell you the truth. I've told Chris, I'm struggling at the moment with online. And the reason I'm struggling with online is because before, my personal IG and my personal TikTok was anything and everything. Motorcycles, dogs, this, that, was everything. But because now we've basically, the algorithm for Muscle Talks seems to point to people bodybuilding and bodies, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of seeing what I'm seeing at the moment, because it's, some of it's so flirtatious and some over the top, and like, it's just not bodybuilding to me. It's more, I don't know, like, it's just changed. And
it's like muscle worshipping.
Yeah, and I feel when I watch it, I said to Chris, I actually, Chris, we used to share the posting. I said, I can't post, Chris. You're gonna have to post. But I have a different role. I go get business, I research, I bring people like you on. So I'm different. I navigate things differently. I look at stories, I look at everything. I look at, you don't even have to be a personal trainer. You don't have to be competing. You just have to show me love affair for bodybuilding. And usually I know that, I can see it. And I've had a few people on the podcast that it's amazing, and they've done amazing. But like I said to you, sometimes social media, especially the platform I've gone, like, because Meta and TikTok has said, oh, you guys like bodies, you guys are into bodybuilding, here you go, overload. We are overloaded, aren't we? So sometimes I just think, oh, I like cars, I like staffies, I like motorcycles, I like the beach. Can I see some of that? But that's why I think you're right. But like I said, when I saw your photos, I just think if you're going to go for it, go for it. Meaning, get a photographer in, get the right people in, you agree? Get professionals in to do the stepping into the uncomfortable, I guess, the expression, especially on social media. That's what I think. Like, invest in not your mate, not your girlfriend, not trying to do it on your phone. Invest. Proper guy like, say, Chris, who goes in before he takes photos. I'll be able to say, Chris will correct me if I'm wrong. From what I've watched, Chris goes and actually looks at locations. So before if you said I want to do some photo shoots with you, Chris, in Australia or Sydney, Chris, you might say to Chris, I wouldn't mind doing some beach shots. Chris doesn't just go down the road. Chris will go for a fucking long walk and picture where he thinks he should take you. And you probably turn up places and go, this is not what I pictured. And Chris will say, trust me, let's just do the shots. So this is what I think people should be paying attention to is.
But also making each other comfortable at the shoot. It's very important as well. That's the biggest part. Like me as a photographer, making the model comfortable.
Making the model comfortable, yes.
That makes the biggest difference.
I agree with you. And you can tell by the facial expressions, you can tell by everything.
Yeah. Like probably one of my best shots are like very simple location. You can go there, you can take the same shot, but the relationship I have with the model at the moment it makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, I agree. So hence what we're talking about, and obviously talking about your little booty shot, but again, it doesn't look like a booty shot. It doesn't. I actually saw your back before I saw your ass, but then I saw your ass and then I looked at everything else, but I didn't, again, I just looked at it and said, Robbi's expressive, very expressive. And that's cool. That's what I mean.
Yeah. And it was all learning. Like there's pictures I can go back to that I took too, where like if I were to go back now, I wouldn't shoot the same shot, or I wouldn't shoot that pose anymore, or just out of like where I was at in life then. It was like, okay, I'll explore that route. And then now it's like, so even that now is like, that shot you're talking about in particular, like that doesn't bother me. But like I have had shots.
It's a great shot. It's a great shot.
Yeah, it's a great shot. But I've had stuff in the past where it's like borderline, like, now I'm getting kind of close to skirting that line of, you know, a thirst trap kind of thing. And, or if I post something and it's on the line, sometimes people on Instagram can help move that line for me. Like, one of the things I haven't had to deal with is just the real creepy people that come up in DMs. Like, I've been really lucky with that. But if I do post something and it brings in a lot of that, I'm not going to post stuff like that again, because it's like, that's not the kind of attention that I want to draw.
It's an indication, yeah. What I'm getting at, just a little light went off in my head. So your shot, I'll just let you know. We'll go with your shot. I don't know if you've seen it, Chris, but I'll show you to you. Actually, I'll show you now, Chris, while we're here. Your shot doesn't make me try to guess what you look like at the front. That's what I'm saying to you. Sometimes people take photos and they tease you. They're teasing you to find out what they look like in front.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Your shot just makes me look at your back of you. And I am not intrigued by your front, because there's no little shadows or things popping here and there making me go for desires. And that's where let me see if I can find it quickly for Chris. Chris would appreciate it, I'm sure. Robbi, but is it on your post or is it on the G&K GB key?
I think he put me on as a collaborator, so it should be on mine.
What are they called? G what? I forgot what I've written it down. CDB. Here we go. What's it, Chris? 1 second. Because I really want to show him. We've never done this before, so it's all new to us here. What's it? CDB GFX. Visual Studio. Oh, that's not it. Let me just. I can't find it. Oh, hang on. Here we go. I found it. Look at this, Chris. What do you think? Is that a good shot?
Yeah.
Chris didn't go to critique quite well, but does that make sense? It's a bit simple, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it is.
it's a bodybuilding shot, but a good one, isn't it? God, you've got big quads. Actually, now looking at it again, God, your triceps are up. Are we allowed to show it?
No, I don't think so.
No, so YouTube might shut us down. It's okay. All right, we'll show it. That's it. Anyway, okay, let's segue out of that one. Feeling again on the 5th. You did a lot of posts this in February, 5th of February. Feeling stalled or going backwards is never easy. I'm going to ask you to tell me more about that statement. Some days get the best of me, and some days I get one up on it. What does that mean?
Yeah. So when I was toward the end of my prep, I felt really great in the fact that I felt like I knew what my purpose was. Like, I knew what kind of the bigger vision of what I had was, specifically in like the posing realm. And when I got out of prep, I don't know, it was like I lost that momentum, and I don't even want to say that it was post-show blues. But it was like I found myself in January just getting through, like, it just felt like a big dark cloud was over my head. And I was second guessing where I was at. I was watching stuff that my friends they were doing, where they were seeming like they were like all taking off. And then I just found myself getting caught into like this comparison cycle that I think everybody does. But like, I got to a point in prep where I was not fully like breaking out of it, but I wasn't paying attention to that so much, and then comparing myself to what other people were doing. I just was focused on, this is me and this is who I am, and these are the things that I love and that I'm passionate about, and like, this is how I want to give it and pass it forward. And I was very focused on that, so I felt very fulfilled on any given day. And somewhere at some point after the holidays, I'd lost that already. And so I was having to start for a little bit in December and January, just back off social media completely, because I found myself hopping on and seeing what other people were doing. And then it was like, I just wasn't moving anywhere. And then when it came to bodybuilding too, part of what that post was also talking about was these issues with my stomach. Like I was supposed to meet you guys when I was in Australia.
Yeah. Tell us about that situation too. Yeah, December. Was it December or November? November.
So it happened both months. So it happened in November. I had issues with this. Yeah, I had issues with this since like 2017. They would like randomly flare up, but it happened once when I was in Sydney with Pete. I was supposed to meet you guys. Woke up in like debilitating pain, and he ended up calling an ambulance. And right before he got ready to call, the pain got so bad I passed out onto the floor. And when I came to, I heard him on the phone with the ambulance or like the EMS people, and he's like, "Oh, now she's seizing." And I'm finally like snapped out of it. So I ended up at the ER for 8 hours. So I missed Caddy competing. I missed meeting you guys.
Yeah. Is that Pete? Yeah, Pete.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were staying in the same room that night. And so I woke him up because I knew, like I said, I had it before, and I usually can tell when it gets to a certain point when I'm gonna have to go to the hospital. And I was pretty much right there. So I'd yelled for him to come into the bathroom. I felt so bad for him. I felt so terrible. But then I got home.
Now that I think about it, I think that was the first time we met Pete in person. But when I look back at the day, he did seem a bit spooked. He seemed a bit white.
Yeah, that's because he saw me seizing on a bathroom floor at 4 a.m. in the morning. So that was my bad.
Oh, Petey. Sorry, Petey.
I was responsible for that one. But no, I had that. And then when I got home from Thanksgiving holiday-ish, I went home like Thanksgiving time frame, first week of December. And when I got back, it happened again. And that was when it was weird, because usually it would happen like 6 to 8 months apart. They would do tests. They couldn't find anything.
All right. So how long was this an issue in your life?
The first time it happened to me was in fall of 2017.
Okay, so not too long.
But when it happened in December, it put me in the hospital for 3 days. I had to get an NG tube, which was not a fun experience. And then we decided they saw something in the CT scan, but they thought it was scar tissue from an appendectomy that I had when I was younger. So we decided we were going to operate on it. And then that also completely stopped anything with bodybuilding, because it was basically like, well, now we're just at maintenance, but now we can't do anything moving forward until you get this surgery done and get recovered from that. So I couldn't train exactly how I wanted to. Like I couldn't move forward from there. And then feeling like I was just behind and getting in my own head. And then it was just this cascade of this just foggy mindset. I think you and I talked about it a little bit online.
We did.
One evening. Yeah. And
did I reach out to you or something? Or was it?
You did. You sent me a podcast, and it was super helpful.
I know I'm a great guy. Because I'm a great guy. I did send you a podcast. I sent you a guy, and you bought his book, and you bought his book as well. Oh, how cool am I? Guys, clear thinking. Yes, Shane Parrish. And I sent it to you, and it happened to be, maybe God works wonders. I think I was listening to it that morning, and then we were talking, and they both coincide together. And I think I said to you, I don't know how to help you, but I'll tell you what, you've got to promise me you're going to listen to this. And that was it.
Yeah. And I pulled it up that night, and then I had like a really good few weeks after that. And then still I was waiting for the surgery this past week to get here, and like it was just walking through mud.
Yeah. All your posts have shown that the last month or two, you definitely, as a spectator watching, but let's go with a bit of a bright side quickly. Recently,
yes.
It's not, I don't know if it's that bright. Let's go with it. 2 weeks without nicotine. Wow.
Yep.
Period. Yeah. I can't believe me and Chris are excited about girls having their periods, because that's all we hear about on this podcast now. Negative effect starting to fade. Hamstring sore today means good stimulus. New training program brightens your mood. Even if there's time in my head, this is still the best and most consistent body comp post
Mhm.
I've ever had. So is it?
It is.
Oh,
It
okay.
is.
Why?
It's no, it's been nice. I think it's just because the fact that we did everything so balanced in prep. So it was easier to become more balanced outside of prep. I didn't have the extreme shift in habits because by the time we went into prep, I didn't really change any habits at all. We were doing the same stuff. We were just slowly taking little bits of food away over time. So when I came out of prep,
what does nicotine mean? Like, were you a smoker? Or what does nicotine?
So I was a vapor.
A vapor, right?
So I started doing that.
It seems like bodybuilders like vaping at the moment.
So apparently, and I've tested it and it's helped, but it helps with appetite suppression. So like when you're constantly wanting to like chew on something or eat, when you get, for me at least, when I would take a hit of like my vape and you'd have some like blueberry flavor, apple flavor, whatever flavor.
You felt like were you chewing it or you're like,
yeah, it's not even that.
Vibe.
It's just getting that flavor in your mouth. It's kind of like it almost tricks you into feeling like you had something, at least not like satiating, but it helps with the craving a little bit.
Yeah, I find it when I'm dieting at the moment and I'm starving. I drink coffee, but I pretend I'm chewing it. I pretend coffee's food. I think it's got to be food. So I drink coffee and I pretend it's food because it's got flavor. It's better than water to me anyway. I don't know. Okay, but you stopped it now. How's that going?
Well, it was going great until I went to the hospital this last week. No, I'm not.
What is it with sick people? What is it with sick people in the hospital smoking downstairs in the gardens? That doesn't fit right. There's sick people and sick people smoking. Like, it doesn't equate.
They're taking a break.
They're having a break from being sick.
They're having a break.
Smoke a break from being sick. Oh, right.
It's taking the hospital edge off. No,
I'm going for a smoko. I'm leaving this infectious disease in my bed. I'm going downstairs and have 30 smoko, and then I'm coming back up and I'll address that infectious disease when I come back up. Holy shit.
But yeah, no, they give you Dilaudid they gave me Dilaudid in the hospital as a painkiller. The thing with it, they'll give it every 4 hours. And so it hits fast, but it also leaves fast. So what I didn't know, I've also learned this. I can thank my boyfriend for this one, but nicotine.
Does he smoke?
Well, he vapes now. He used to be a dipper and then he quit dipping and started vaping.
What's dipping?
Like chewing tobacco.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what that is.
But what he had told me is if like the effects start to wear off, if you have a little bit of nicotine, whether it's like a mint or like a pouch or something. So like I don't start vaping again or anything like that. But if you have a pouch, it helps kind of bring back the effects of the painkiller for a little bit. So we would basically get to the halfway point where stuff would start to wear off. And then just to help with the pain, I'd pop that back in and it would go from having like an hour and a half of being really uncomfortable to about 30, 45 minutes.
Well, tell me this. I've smoked. I actually became addicted to smoking at the age of 45. Can't believe it. That was when my marriage broke. So let's not get the violins out, Chris. But the thing is, get the violins out. I started smoking and I smoked because I really didn't give a fuck. It was my fuck off moments. That's all it was. It was every time. And then I got into rolling cigarettes. And I liked rolling them because I put under the belief that it was tobacco, grass, plant, good for me. But the one thing I have to say, even growing up in my 20s, going out, being a social smoker at times and doing whatever, I actually felt while I was bodybuilding, it was psychological, that if I smoked, I didn't peak. I mean, I didn't hit 100%. It just never did. So while I smoked, I can bodybuild, but even though I probably looked amazing, I felt if I didn't smoke, I'd even be more amazing. Do you get that feeling sometimes, or not?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely helps with sleep, because up until I went to the hospital, like at night, like my resting heart rate and stuff, all of that went back down. Like any of the side effects that you get from withdrawals were pretty much gone. And then my sleep was starting to trend better. Like I've got an Aura ring, so I track all the different stuff, whether it's steps or kind of check up on how my sleep's doing. And all of that stuff improved. And I mean, if your sleep is improving, your body's going to improve. Like your training is going to improve. It directly affects that. So if there's studies showing that smoking or nicotine use at all is going to hinder your sleep, then yeah, definitely you're going to do better without it once the withdrawals go away.
I don't smoke now, which is good. And I don't feel like smoking because I've done it enough. I've seen it. I've done it enough. I've had enough. I've had enough. 18th of January 2024, you talk about perceived on being a vulnerable person, but in the reality, you are in a certain extent when feelings overwhelm, very raw, hardest times to communicate and say how I feel. Posing helps you communicate. Speak the song, the emotions around all that speaks. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I had a talk with my coach about this. So I started a podcast a couple weeks ago, and it's called Breaking Boundaries, Posing Beyond the Stage.
I saw that. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, and so I'm having different people that I've met come on that are really into the artistry of posing and talking about what it is for them, and going into maybe some of their routines, and if there was a backstory to it, what was it and what was the inspiration for it. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I had a lot of emotional just healing that I had to do. So when I got done competing in 21, I went through a bunch of stuff. I got out of the military, which anytime you do that, it's odd. Like it's a very odd thing. No matter what, like whether you deploy or not. And that was something that kind of took me by surprise. I'd went through a divorce. My financial status completely changed. And then there's just a bunch of just trauma, whether from some childhood stuff or stuff as a young adult that I never actually really sorted through. And I used to use the gym as the way to like deal with stress. And my coach finally told me, he goes, "You're not dealing with stress." He was like, "You're going into the gym and you're punishing yourself." And he was like, "If you're doing that and we can't disconnect you from doing that," he was like, "you're not going to be as great of an athlete as you could be." Because he knew that there were going to be times where I needed to hold back or push. So like if that was where I was putting all of that stuff, one, I wasn't dealing with it properly. And then two, I wasn't going to train properly. Just everything mentally was going to stay messed up. So posing was something where I think the first time I made a routine was I did a song to, I think it was a Post Malone song, which is weird because I don't normally listen to
what
him.
about the one where I think is it Destiny's Child? I'm a survivor. What is it?
I played with that a little bit. I played with that one a little bit the other day. That one was still a little bit more fun. I guess it was a couple weeks ago now that I did that. But no, I did a song called Love Hate Letter to Alcohol that Post Malone did. And that was the first time I had sorted through anything that was deeper level with a posing routine. I was going through a bunch of stuff and I was abusing alcohol toward the end of my military career. And I was using that experience of getting sober and stuff I went through beforehand and after, and putting that emotion back in.
You've opened up like the sober. What do you mean by sober?
So I don't drink or use any, like I haven't drank for, it'll be 4 years in October.
Why?
because alcoholism runs in my family, and I was never like a daily drinker. But what my problem was I was never good at moderating. So it was when I was younger, the way that I grew up, I was always taught alcohol was bad. And then when I got to college, the way that I learned how to drink was through my buddies who were also going into the military, and it's you get as trashed as possible. So it was like a very 0 to 100 mentality. And I'm already
It's a bit
kind of
like that anyway.
yeah. So my
It's also
problem was
sometimes it's also our personalities. Like some people can eat, a third of the chocolate bar. But me, I know I want to eat the whole damn chocolate bar. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so that's basically me with alcohol. It's one of those things where if I start drinking, maybe now for a day, a month, whatever, I can moderate it. But eventually it would just put me back into old habits and old mindsets. And next thing you know, I'm getting blacked out drunk and making stupid decisions and making problems that I don't want to face. And so when I made that routine, he was talking about his story with alcohol and like some of the nights that he had. And so it really resonated with me. So when I started making that routine, I actually was kind of reliving some of those things in the moment. And I realized I started feeling a lot better when I was done. Like it was just feeling like this weight kind of lifted off of my chest. And when I grew up, I have really strong parents, just my mom especially. Like she is one strong lady. But one of the things that was hard for me is when things would go bad or things would go south, we really wouldn't talk about it. Like, I was supposed to have a full-blooded younger sister, and she ended up being stillborn. And so it was one of those things like, this happened, this sucks. We're not going to talk about it. My mom, I don't even remember seeing her cry. Like she hid a lot of emotions, and she was doing it because she was trying to be like a strong mother. But then
some of us are like that. I'm a bit like that too. Deep down, I want to express, but sometimes you feel like the world wants to express more than yourself. So you just sit back and let everyone express, and you don't. Go ahead.
But I feel like at least for me, I was different in my family in that like they seem really good at it. Like they seem really good at just moving on. And I would try to do that, and it would just rip me apart. Like I didn't have an outlet, and it just caused so much just mental angst. And then I never knew what to do with it. And so when I started posting, I started going back through different moments in my life where I felt that, just like the heaviness. And like therapy, like talk therapy never really worked. And even then I usually never opened up because I didn't trust the person enough. And so with posing, depending on the routine that I'm doing and what the circumstances is that I'm doing it, if it's one of those routines where I jump into something like that, I'm expressing that. Like I'm having a conversation with you, like I'm talking to you. It's not through words. It's through what I'm doing and any emotion that you see. My competition routine for the Amateur Olympia was actually very, very emotionally powered. It was like the 2 years leading up to getting back on that stage all wrapped up into one song.
I saw that. So tell me something, because I'm going to get into your comps a little bit now too. What does posing, because it's definitely a hot topic on your page, a topic on a lot of people's pages, more than just bodybuilding, more than just flexing muscle. It's flexing muscle with posing. If you could sum it up quick, like in a few words, what does posing mean to you, and what do you see it mean to others that you see doing it? Like what is the message? What is it doing for you?
For me, it gives me the freedom to fully express myself. I'm using my body it's kind of like using my body as the pen. Like it's writing the words. I'm doing the poses and the movements, and that's where like I'm writing things out. But then when
Let
I
me
fully
elaborate for a
embrace,
second. Just elaborate for 1 minute. I know there are people that get on stage, dancers, people that paint their bodies and they express it on stage, but you seem to love the bodybuilding, and you love performance. So is that what it is? That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to sum it up. Why is the bodybuilding making you want to be such a fucking performer when it's never been like, it's starting to become like the performance is just a little bit more than bodybuilding, but you're just bringing bodybuilding with it. Is that true?
yeah, because I would say for me, posing is my way of speaking about the hard things and expressing the hard things that I wouldn't want to in a normal way.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to say it. And then I also like the discipline and the journey and the lessons that I learned through the athletic component of bodybuilding. So now it's, I can take both of those things and then I can bridge them together.
Yes, that's your genre.
Yep.
I love it.
So
Yeah. And do you see that when you look at others? You know what they're doing?
Some
of the
people,
ones that
yeah.
Really, yeah. When they're invested, I can't see it, but I can tell there's something going on because they're different. Yep. Do you see it? You go, oh, okay, I get it, bro. Oh, I get it, girl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can, especially if that's how it resonates with you, you can see it in other people. And that's how.
Is that why you created the group? Is that why you created the group?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can see.
Yeah, and that's even how I connected with Pete, is he saw something that I did on Instagram, and like you can just tell. It's like you almost have a sixth sense when you see somebody else doing it. It's like you can feel it through the screen. And so he saw me do something and we started talking, and sure enough, we realized we were very similar in how we felt about it and how we thought about it, and a lot of the things that we would either struggle with like mentally or creatively. And then yeah, the majority of people that I've met, especially people that are either already pros or like well on their way to becoming one, or if they're even more known on social media, it was because of that, them being able to see that connected me with them in the first place.
Well, tell us about, quickly before we leave, Kai Greene. I'll tell you why. Because yes, Pete gets always a story post on mine. If I see something, I just go, oh, fuck, I love Pete. I love his posing. Chris knows, and then I saw you guys, you and the real sensei and Kai Greene and you guys. It's a shame that fucking Instagram wasn't going to show the whole thing. It stopped at the point where Kai Greene goes like that. So I did it again before I deleted it. I thought, let me just do it again. I did a mistake. And then did the same thing. It wouldn't play the whole damn thing where we could see you and
it's on his YouTube channel.
Oh, well, so tell us about Kai Greene, because I think there's only been really a few bodybuilders, and I mean a handful, that have gone out and done crazy shit like Kai Greene on stage at his level. So yeah, what's Kai Greene like?
Oh my gosh, he's awesome. He is, you know how when you see somebody online and you really can respect and look up to them, but then you always wonder, like, what are they actually like in person? He's one of those people where he's exactly what you would expect him to be in person, and then some.
Wow.
Like, he's a very sweet, down-to-earth guy. Like, there's what you see, which is like the very like wild out on Instagram kind of stuff. But I got to spend a lot of time with them. Either like we would go out to eat, or while we were in the studio posing, or even just driving, because the thing is he would pick us up and he would drive us to wherever we were going. And just conversations we would have over food and whatnot. Like, he is somebody that truly did not have, like, I don't even want to say a good hand. Like, he didn't even have a hand dealt to him, pretty much. And he has just made the most of it. And then as he's made the most of it, he's not forgotten. Like, he doesn't think of himself as like any better than any other people. Like, he's still a very down to earth, genuine person.
Well, you know, there was Lee Haney, Doreen Yates, kind of many years of Lee Haney winning 8, which so does Phil Heath have 8. But then there was Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler. But then there was Phil Heath and Kai Greene. Like, it was just Batman and Superman. Like, it was the two superheroes going for it. And Kai Greene had a challenge on his hand, and he did. I think he did okay. He did entertain me, that's for sure. I don't know enough about him, but from what I see, he has many colorful layers. And I think I said, like you, sometimes you think you've worked them out and you haven't, and that's okay, as long as they're pretty cool in real life. As long as they're cool when you're watching them. But like you said, if you've said you've now met him and there's more, that's even better.
Yeah, he is, and he is at its core, like, he is an artist. Drawing, writing, comics, singing, dancing, like all of these things. Like, people see Kai and a lot of people think of like the bodybuilder or the impressive artistic posing or all this other stuff. But no, like, he is an artist at the core, and he is the hardest worker that you'll have ever met. And at the same time, knows how to have like the optimistic face despite everything he's been through, to just kind of shuffle, like, keep going through it.
I don't know how. It's quite, not just him, but a lot of people, even you guys go on stage. I'm mesmerized that you can do it, even though you probably say it's just stage. Not to me. I look at it like that's 3 weeks out, no carbohydrates, which I've done, but you're now about to show yourself off. And I don't know how you do that, how you guys do it. So since that's a great segue into Joe Wider, Olympia Amateur 2023. Tell us that experience. The result is second. I thought that's why I wrote the result. How amazing you felt backstage. Share a piece of yourself with the audience now about that.
So backstage, I felt cold. That's what I felt backstage. I felt so cold. When you get on stage, especially like that, there's a lot of hurry up and waiting. So for me, the excitement and the adrenaline, it didn't really even kick in until that like half second before I stepped on stage. That was the moment where like my heart rate starts to go up. Backstage was fun though, in the fact that there's so many cool people. Like, I met a girl from Switzerland that I still talk to. I met this really funny lady from the UK. I mean, she was just hilarious. And like, all of the girls in women's physique were super fun and just goofy, and all of us were freezing. So we're making jokes and trying to pass time to, not think about the fact that we're half naked backstage with no body fat and freezing our butts off.
Try not to tremble.
No, it felt good to be back, but what I was most excited about was just finally that 60 seconds to get on stage. Like, the comparison round was fun, but finally getting on there to do the routine and have a moment to where I could share a little piece of myself with the audience and like what I went through to get there. That for me, like, that was the moment that I really loved the most.
I don't know all the comps that are going on in America, right? We don't have many comps here. We have a few, but not like them. So explain to me, what is exactly a Joe Wider, which is the famous Joe Wider, Olympia Amateur? Because it just looks like Olympia. When you look at it carefully, if you have to look twice to go like, oh, it's not the Olympia. What's that? What exactly is that?
It's just a national level show. It's held at the convention center that the Olympia is at. It's not on the same stage at all, but it's in the same area. But
Same
it's
day?
just
Same day?
no. So they'll have the Olympia Expo usually that Thursday through Saturday,
Yeah.
following Wednesday through Saturday, Thursday through Saturday.
Yeah.
We competed on, I think, Monday, Tuesday night.
Okay, so it's in that week. It's
Yeah.
it's like a festival in some ways, like a Grand Prix of
Mhm.
a show from Monday to Monday. It's 7 days of extraordinary.
But they have like a small, like that's how they kick the Olympia week off, is with that. But it's it's very small as far as like you're not seeing like the big expo set up yet or anything like that. It's very much the national level show. The biggest difference is it's worldwide. So instead of most of the other national shows in the US, I think all of them, you have to be a US citizen, I think, except for North Americans. And then it's Canada and Mexico, I think also. But the amateur Olympia, you actually can come in from all over.
I noticed that. Okay, more on that show. I mean, you got me all emotional. I just wanted to be in your team, stand in the front line and battle with you, because 14 weeks ago you posted this. Man, I've got so many things I want to say, so many people to thank. But you said 2 years ago, I didn't know I'd be back on stage again. I was freshly moved into a dump apartment, no marriage, new job with little clients on the books. Marriage over, no close friends. I didn't even know who I was or what I was capable of. I was just hurt, broken, crazy, angry, downright lost. But something beautiful happened. In having all these things occur, it forced me into a decision, either to go pursue a typical path or find a way to do what I love, and I choose the latter. It wasn't easy. I didn't have money to do things, buy new clothes. You had to shut down Netflix. Fuck, that's bad. It's really bad. No. I lived on the minimal life. What? Starbucks stopped. Anything that was going towards bills. You know what? You're explaining my life right now. We're just pretending we're doing something really good here. But let me tell you, me and Chris, we don't even go to Starbucks. We can't afford that. Actually, we did go to Starbucks.
We did.
We spent a lot of money on crap. But then that's another story. I was trying to save in case of an emergency happened. Yeah. Most of the end of 2021, I spent alone. I'm going to start crying. And the same for the first of 2024. I reached back to God, got honest with my frustration and anger. But eventually things started happening. This routine showcased my journey. Go on.
Yeah, I didn't know when I walked off stage I was competing in figure in 21. And when I walked off that stage, that was probably one of the worst weekends of my life. My ex-husband and I got into a huge fight like the night before I got on that stage.
Stop there. How come every single person that wins a big comp is either been kicked out of their apartment, they can't afford the rent, broken up with their partners, they've been in a car accident, ridden off their car? Like, has anyone ever told us a good story going into these big comps? But this is the one they win. So they tell you they've just won pro card, national champion, whatever they've done. And then you hear the week before, you go, no way. It just seems like, what the hell happened? It's a train wreck.
But yeah, I went into, I walked out of 21. Like I said, I got out of the military. That kind of makes you re-question your identity a little bit, even if you don't think you've attached yourself to it.
You've left a group. Yeah.
So that was gone. I didn't really even have a lot of friends because I was either bodybuilding or work, or if we would go do stuff social, it was like with my ex's friends, and I didn't really have anything in common with them. So I didn't have any good friends at that point, or really any friends. I mostly just stayed. The reason I stayed in Raleigh was because I was in AA still, and so I already had a home group there. So I was like, I got that going for me.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, thought about it, most officers get out of the military and like go get their MBA and work for corporate. But to me, that just sounded miserable. I mean, you can make 6 figures off of it easy. You know, I having a military background, like you can pretty much get into any school that you want, just with the experiences that you got. And I don't know, just like none of it sounded great at all. And the only thing that I had that I really, really loved was bodybuilding. And that was before I even found out about posing yet. So I just decided to, you know, go all in. Like if there was a time to rebuild everything and do stuff how I wanted, exactly how I wanted, it's like, well, I've done lost everything. So, I mean, it's the perfect time to rebuild it. If there's like nothing that you have to worry about getting thrown out, like it's already gone.
You look left, there's nothing there. You look right, there's nothing there. You look behind, there's nothing there. You go, there's nothing going forward. You might as well go with something.
Yeah, and so that's what I did. I just stuck with the thing that I loved most, and that's what it was. And throughout the entire couple years that I did it, there was some really awesome times and there was some really hard times. Like Kai noticed me, I got to go work with him. That was great. Then there are also times where I felt like the biggest imposter, or I'd look around my apartment and I've got a roach problem that I can't seem to get rid of because it's just dumpy, and it's been dumpy since I got there. Yeah, I mean, the first year that I was going through that whole entire thing, I lived in a studio apartment and I didn't have a TV or anything. So literally all I would do once I started learning about posing was after work is I'd pose in my bedroom. I'd find stuff online and try to like learn it, or people would put posing challenges out. And so I would try to figure out what the heck I was doing and how to do it, because I didn't know.
Wow, it's amazing how much you love posing, and how you go and find your posing through your life and expressing it. So what do we delve into bigger, darker places now? Let's really go deep. Let's go to the NPC Mid-Atlanta Classic Comp.
All right.
Posted 4 years since I truly got into bodybuilding. 2 years since my life changed dramatically. I got dead last, divorced, medically discharged from the military, and was a complete broken mental wreck. I mean, it just gets better, doesn't it? And when I felt all was lost, I began reaching to God harder than I ever had in my life. The last 2 years, the last year we did a year-end offering at the Elevation Church. For me, I gave 2K. Well done for that. My word was peace. I also asked that God would help you. It truly has been the most peaceful year of my life so far. Well, it started getting better. So tell me about that. The NPC the Classic Comp, because I mean, yeah, you've definitely talked a bit there.
Yeah, so it was still, it was a big reflection on the last 2 years. The same 2 years that I was talking about in the Olympia post.
God, no Netflix.
It was
Starbucks. Was Starbucks there? Was Netflix okay, or no? That was gone too.
No, I mean that whole 2021 to now, like I've not really. Starbucks is just, it's gone. Plus, then I came to Australia and had your guys' coffee, and I realized Starbucks is shit. So
Starbucks is shit, man. Hey, at last had that coffee.
So, but no, I would say at the end of 21, early 22, that was probably one of the biggest down points that I had. I had like a couple really dark points in my life, and that was definitely one of them. And as you know, like I'm a very spiritual person now. Like I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus and everything that he did, and I've been doing my best to
that's what you can do.
To live a life that shows that. But going into that definitely, like I was mad. Like I was the preacher's kid that was pissed off and didn't want anything to do with them.
Makes me laugh because, not laugh at your story, sorry, I'm not laughing. I was
No, you're
telling
good.
Chris, I said to Chris, because I do believe in God. I am a Christian, but I also know God has a massive sense of humor, and he doesn't mind a little bit of, I think, one, he enjoys me. And I said to Chris, I don't know what the fuck God is doing with me, but right now I feel like he's having a Slurpee, chomping on some popcorn, and watching Netflix, saying, this guy's life is hilarious. I'm having the best time of my life. Someone give me some more popcorn. Like, what the fuck's going on? So
Yeah.
I guess you must feel sometimes like these challenges, like you have to go deep.
I mean,
I think if you
that
can't go
literally
spiritual,
that was pretty much the 2 years. And the thing is like when I finally got to the point where I was like, all right, like I'm gonna set my anger aside. You know, a lot of the things that I was mad at, I realized like this isn't God's fault. Like this perspective, like I'm putting like the blame on in the wrong area. Like I have a lot more onus in this, and then the other part of it is just people being people. Like that's not his fault. But man, I remember when I first started, like I didn't want to go back to church, wasn't ready for that, like still kind of church hurt. So I would start watching sermons. I mean, quite literally for some months in a row here and there, almost every day. I'd pull up something while I was like food prepping or getting ready for work or whatever. And I did. And eventually things started to grow. But I mean, the first few months where I started mending my relationship with God, it was a lot of nights of me getting mad and cursing him out. Like,
he gets it. I love it. I love cursing God out. He and me, we have some of the arguments we have, the best ones.
Yeah. But it was awesome though too, because even though I grew up in church, I feel like the last 2 years has been able to help me get a lot stronger of a relationship, but also a more genuine relationship. Because you know, sometimes you can grow up and people can make you feel like you have to do everything right, or if you get pissed off at God and you tell him like he can't handle it or something like that, or like how dare you. And I got to a point over the last couple of years, from the time I competed in 21 to where I finally got back on stage, where I realized like that's not the case. Like God knows how I feel, and like what he wants even more is for me to tell him how I feel, so even he knows that I know how I feel. And then like from there, now we can have an honest dialogue.
You need to
and so when I finally got to that point, there was a lot of things that changed. So even though I had the apartment that wasn't ideal, and even though I had pretty slim money and like a lot of things that people would look at as like kind of a little bit like, I had everything that I needed and I was grateful for that. But from what I was used to having to what I had to go back to, it was definitely steps back. I was able to be grateful for what I had. And then as the years kept going by, or the months kept going by, there would be little snippets of opportunity here or connecting with a person there. And then it was like you slowly started seeing pieces fall into place. And that it all came together, I felt like, with the end of the season. Like this is what I brought you through. Like when we started this, we weren't talking. Then you finally decided to get real and get mad at me and tell me you're mad. And then we started to work through it. And then you started to trust me. And now you're finally like, all right, like, here we go. And so when I did my first routine, it was actually about that. I did a song by Stephen Stanley called Whatever It Takes. I was planning on doing a completely different routine for it. And about a week beforehand, I was driving home from like a women's Bible study, and I heard that song, and like it hit really hard. And so I ended up changing my routine because I felt like if I had to be honest, people could say that, you know, I was a super strong person, or I was a fighter, or all of this, or whatever you would want to say. But when it came down to it, it was just because I finally mended my relationship with God. He was able to carry me through the crap to get to where I ended up.
Yeah, well, I know that Yeah, I just know myself. The only truth I have, I'm not here to preach to anyone, is just God. At the end of the day, that's the only truth I have, because I can't convince you about if I'm being honest to you, or if you should be comfortable with me, or that we will get on, or that you'll get on with me. It's got no time for that. I just have to do what pleases him, and that helps me have relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we do what's called an off-topic, interesting topic. So we're just going to leave bodybuilding for a moment, right? It's new for 2024. Why? And Chris, you can get involved in this. Why, or is it me? We don't trust our politicians anymore.
Oh,
Or our media. Why do they lie, not report the truth? Why do they promise for only to get into the office, like to get voted in? Are we really perceived as stupid humans in their eyes? We have the masses, yet we can't come together for a common purpose. Why? That's the hot topic. You ready? Hot topic.
Whew.
Do you trust your politician? Do you trust your politician? Do you trust your media?
No.
No.
No. No,
Chris?
I don't.
No. I mean, then why the fuck are we paying them? But go ahead. Why?
No, I don't. I've got to the point where, like, even my parents with elections, like, they'll talk about getting a new person in office or whoever they want in office. And my thing is, if people would stop looking at it as if those guys are going to change everything, because they're not. Like, it's not a top-bottom approach. Like, it's going to have to be a bottom-up.
Oh,
But
it's a bottom-up approach. Look, I mean, I want to hear a bit more, and I'm going to go to the three of us, but let me go first, because then maybe you feel like it. The reason I bring up hot topics is just so people, when they're watching our podcast, they might get awake again. But the thing is, let's say this. What I don't understand is, when I grew up, I really believed in the politicians that were there to help us. That's what I thought. I thought, oh, wow, like, they help with infrastructure, they help with employment, they help with us trading with overseas, they give us jobs. I just believed they're trying to bring the tax system down, give us opportunities. I just thought all that, and I believed it. I thought, and I think it was there for a little while, and Ronald Reagan said, we're a generation away from losing our freedom. It is a generation. It's just 80 years, 60 years, 100 years of a generation, whatever it is. But the one thing I noticed is I started seeing politicians, and I think this is where it changed. I started seeing politicians jogging and acting like they've got to become fit and good looking and wear nice suits and put a nice watch on and present themselves in Armani. Like, what I'm saying is, they all started to wear these, like, it just became for the gram in the politics, a showmanship, where I knew back then a politician, maybe in America, but I know in Australia, he would go out on the field wearing his hometown team colours and probably do the first kickoff, because they got down and dirty. They enjoyed a beer. That Budweiser. You have a Budweiser, and that's your politician. And our like, now they're like, what are they? Who are they? Are they woke? Like, have we gone? Like, who are they? And so, what kills me is they're actually working for us, but they're working against us. And then we've got this media, and this media, in front of your own eyes, you're there with them. You're watching the carnage. And when you go back home and watch it, it's like they weren't there. So what do you think? She just wrote us.
There you go.
Can you hear us?
Now I got
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. What do you think? What are you thinking?
Oh, I don't trust politics.
But why? But we got. But
I
we're
do
supposed
think-
to.
I do-
That's the thing. Why?
It's one of those things that you watch debates or anything like that, it ends up becoming a point the finger, point the blame. Like, I don't see a lot of people either giving good solutions anymore. Like, it's more of just breeding this anger, frustration towards sides. Or if they do promise solutions, they don't really come through. But even with the politicians, like, beyond that, I think media, I mean, they just control so much narrative that it's hard to know. It's hard to know what to believe. And then even now with like phone monitoring and like, people always want to say like they want to know what kind of ads to show you or whatever, but it's the same thing with like algorithms on Instagram, right? Like, you pop up on your phone, it knows what you're looking at, it knows what to show you. Like, it
But that
knows how
might
to
be just for a week. Like, fuck, I might have just looked at something for a week. Why do I have to see it now forever?
yeah, so it just, I don't know. I feel like everything's too divisive. And I think that's why I don't trust it. Is I don't see anybody from either side of things trying to do something where we're pulling the group together and uniting something to come up with a solution, and understanding that we don't have to agree to the T about the best solution, but we need to find like the best thing that we possibly can, the best compromise on whatever the issue is, to where we can move forward together, and then put the rest of the differences aside. And then if it doesn't work, being willing to, navigate whatever we have to change from there. But you don't see that. I don't ever see that. So
What about you, Chris? What about you? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. We'll come back.
Oh,
to
you're
you.
good. You're
The
good.
topic's not up
I
yet.
don't trust them. I don't trust the media. It's proven to be fake.
But it is proven to be fake. And that's why podcasts work so well, because we're not reporting. We're not reporters. That's
And
why.
it's not mainstream media. It's not like podcast. Like, mainstream media is paid by somebody, and they'll say,
Yeah, paid.
yeah,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's proven to be fake.
it's proven. It is proven to be fake. Someone said that the biggest and the highest revenue is the news. The news pulls in the most audience, and that's where you pay your premium ads. So if it's 6 p.m. your news, that is premium time. So that people that own the news, own that channel, own CBS, own Fox, own whoever, that is like Super Bowl time. That the ads inside there are. So if you need to be reporting to keep people in their chair to watch the ads. So why not show explosions and hate and debate against each other? But what kills me the most, I'll tell you what gets me the most, is when we send money to countries. I'll say it. Let's say we're sending money to Ukraine. I want to know, where was the memo? Can I just get the memo, because I voted you in? So I guess you're working for me. It's my tax money. Can I just tick a box that I agree? Can I just tick the box that you're going to send $40 billion or 40 million, 400 million? I don't know what you're sending to Ukraine. I just want to know, what are we doing for you guys? I guess I'll go with you. What are we doing with the homeless in LA? What are we doing with your own hometown? Like, when you're sending X amount of dollars to something, I'm not saying, what I'm hearing, Putin does want to negotiate, but you don't. That's one. Hear me out. And two, how does someone sit in politics and say, no, we're not going to sign a peace deal? But wait, there's people dying. No, I'm not signing a peace deal. That's crazy. That's what I mean. Like, wait a minute, there's people being killed. Yeah, but give me another reason. People getting killed? No, another reason. So what's happening? What the fuck?
See,
Are we really looked upon that like that's stupid? Like, are they looking at us? Because we are the masses, you know that. If we revolutionize this world, they're gone. Like, they're actually saying to each other, shut up and don't let them find out.
See, I just stopped watching the news.
I stopped watching television. I don't watch television.
Yeah, I don't watch. If there's shows that I want to watch, I'll watch stuff on like Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever. But like, I don't watch the news anymore. And what I've just come down here is I've seen people get so, whether it's clients or family or whatever, that will either go in circles or fight about all of this stuff, either that they've seen on the media or if they're on this side of politics or that side of politics or whatever. It's, to me, where I'm at and the point that I'm at, anything that I can personally do right now is not going to specifically affect that situation. What I have is this tiny sphere of control in the environment that's directly around me, and making sure that I try to do things to positively affect it rather than fuck it up. So it's like, if I'm doing that, then I'm doing what I need to do. And like, that's just like, I got enough stress in my life. Like at this point, there's nothing that Robbi Jenkins is specifically going to say today that is going to change what Trump does or Biden does or whoever does. So it's like, my community's here. As long as I'm being an active there and trying to do things in that, small things in that to make it better, I'm doing what I need to do. And then if you would think every person doing that rather than fighting about all of this other stuff, if they would just focus in on their little bubble of things and what they could impact.
Yeah. Imagine everyone putting a positive impact on the world. Everybody, like your own little circle. Well, I guess we've realized, and I think we're in a unison, I think we're all voting, we don't trust politicians, we don't trust the media, which is sad. But let's onwards and upwards with people we don't trust. So tell us when did bodybuilding capture your attention? Tell us about your comps, quickly and brief. What's your favorite, most memorable, and the one that tested you the most?
So bodybuilding captured in 2012. Had a professor at my college that asked me if I'd ever heard about it, and I said no. It's still, he connected me with a girl that competed in fitness, and so I tried my first few shows when I was in college. Like I said, I took a break for a while, and then I competed in 3 shows in 2019, 2 shows in 2020, and then 1 show in 2021. And then I didn't compete again until the 2 shows I did this past year.
How old are you, Robbi? I don't mean to ask, you never ask a woman, but I guess girls are going to be watching this podcast and they're probably wanting to think from 2012 to 2019, what a gap. What is it? How old are you?
How old would you think I am?
Oh, God, don't do that to me. I'm just going to lie.
I won't get offended. To be honest, I won't get offended.
All right. Let's just go with it. All right, look, the number that came in my head was 28.
32.
Ah, there you go. 28 was hammering me. Like, I was just looking at everything, your features, your face. I just thought 28. 32, you're doing great. You look amazing. I look amazing at 54. That's another story. I've learned that from my dad's vanity. He used to make me believe I was more than I was in looks. All right, so you're 32. You competed in 2012. What comp was that, and what was the comp in 2019? Quickly.
Oh my goodness.
And you're a natural competitor, is that right? You're a natural competitor?
No, I'm not.
In what way? Tell me.
I competed naturally until 2019. That entire season I was natural. I used Anavar in 2020, and then this past season I actually used 7 milligrams of TRT, and then I think 50 of Primo. So I'm very honest about it, not natural.
No. Look, you know what? I'm glad, because I thought, hear me out, I thought you were natural, but actually I thought everyone was on the gear, and I'm confused. So I'm actually confused. I don't know who's on it and who's not on it. I don't know anymore. You can't even pick them anymore. You can't pick it. Once upon a time you could pick it, but that's okay. But I think, what's important? This is the bullshit that people don't want to share stuff. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Like, is it really that bad? If it's that bad, why are you taking it? That's one. 2, why not educate people about your 2012 to 2019 that you were natural. And okay, you went and had a bit of nitrous. Like, who gives a shit? Like, does it matter? You still had to go, still had to do the work. So I just think the more we try to keep these things taboo, and it doesn't matter. Like,
I saw it with a lot of women. Like,
at the moment, women don't want to talk about it. Men do, but women don't.
Yeah, a lot of women. I think it's getting better there too. A lot of women didn't want to talk about it, but then a lot of women were also getting really messed up because they would get coaches that would give them protocols that were designed for men. Like, we're not.
Yes,
men.
I heard that too. I heard that as well.
So there's a lot of the side effects that you get. Like, my voice hasn't changed. Like, my facial features are the same that they've looked. Like, I would rather tell somebody that I'm an enhanced athlete and then also be able to tell them, but if you're an enhanced athlete, all of these basics still matter. And if you don't do these and abuse this stuff, like, you're not going to look great, and you're going to start getting masculine features and a masculine voice. I'll tell people I'm enhanced all day. Like, I don't care. I know how hard I've worked. It doesn't change that.
Well, I could tell you, I said to you, and I probably said enough on the podcast, that I took a cycle when I was 49, I think 12 weeks, no, longer, 6 months out before turning 50. I said I'm going to done it. And to be honest, I did it without a coach. I just went to some gym bro. I did it with a gym bro. I know. And guess what? Yeah, I blew myself out at the end. Oh, yeah, I just, boom, boom, I exploded. It was fireworks. I was like, lost my appetite. I was fucking, that ass. You know what's the funniest? I've got a condition called colitis. And I ended up, I've never ended up in hospital for this, but I did. But when I ended up in hospital, because I hadn't eaten for a week, because they addressed me, and I guess I had a few little biscuits, all of a sudden I just became vascular and ripped. And even the nurses said to me, "My God, you're very muscular." I was ready to compete in hospital. If I didn't have a comp in the hospital, I would have been great. Smoking as well, smoking downstairs in the gardens, posing. Yeah, of course, I was doing all this back then too. So anyway, it's good to talk about it because let everyone listen. It's funny, but everything is a discipline and a moderation, and you still need to have a limit of foundation. The foundation is the training and the diet and the sleep. And most importantly, that's what it is. It's nothing more, nothing less. And also, I believe, to the young ones out there listening to us right now, I promise you, if you don't build a 10-year foundation, you don't have one. I'll be honest with you. When I say you have 5 years, 3 years, and you want to hit the juice, but if you haven't really built a good foundation, 18 to 28, or even 5 years, I'll give it 5 years. If you haven't built year to year from zero to something in natural, I wouldn't touch anything, because natural is your foundation. Like, you always can go back home. You always can go back home to natural, like back home to where you were good. But these people that are in it a year or two, they really believe they've done. They're just puffy. Everyone's puffy, man. We're just puffy, where the body's enjoying this, but they haven't built foundations where when you're depleting, that actually the muscle stays, that you're not being skinny, because it's a different story skinny and it's a different story ripped. Because skinny is different. Being ripped is ripped because you're shedded muscle. It's what I realize what depletion is, ripping up, is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Where dieting to be skinny is just steps back. Just go back, back, and back, and back, and back. Where you're trying to bodybuild, and then you've got to take another step back, and then you're trying to bodybuild, and then you take another step back, because you're just hanging on to that muscle as much as possible without it becoming a food source to your body. What was the most memorable comp, and what was the one that tested you the most?
I'd say the most memorable one was my North Americans in 2021. I think that was because it was such a crap show.
Yes.
But I think, man, I don't know. That's so hard because on the one hand, I want to say that like this year was the one that tested me the most. I mean, I guess I would go with that. I'm gonna go with those because the prep wasn't what tested me. It was everything leading up to it and doing that right. I think that is what tested me the most. I think people think about being tested as during prep. And I think if more people thought about testing time, I think if
tested is you didn't think you'd get there. Somehow you had moments. You know, there's a lot of moments. Like, you know what I mean? That's why I'm saying tested. Like, it's kind of like this relief you got there. Like, finally, it is what I thought it would be.
Then yeah, it would definitely be this past season.
Yeah,
both of those shows.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Tell us, were you academic? You said you weren't sporty. Were you a nerd? Were you creative? Were you arts when you were growing up? And what did you want to be? Did you want to be like a lawyer, a doctor? I don't know. What did you want to be?
So I was smart in school. My problem was if I wasn't challenged enough, I would get lazy. So most of your classes that would be like your easy A classes, I would get a B in. And then most of the classes people would struggle in, I would get an A in. And it was usually just because I would get bored and not do the easy homework. And I was like that in college too. So I wanted to be a tornado chaser from the time I was in about second grade till I graduated high school.
Tornado chaser. Wow. Is that a career?
I mean, it was in like the science career, yeah.
Oh, science career. Oh, yeah, yes, sorry, science, yes. Well, that Chris,
they would be the ones, they were like, did you ever see the movie Twister?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that came out, I think, when I was in first or second grade, and I became obsessed with tornadoes. And I never wanted to be on TV doing the like broadcasting crap. I always thought it was cool what they were doing with like the scientific experiments and trying to basically figure out how it worked and if there were like better warning systems that they could get for people. Like I always thought that part was really cool. So for the longest time, from about second grade till, I don't know, probably till I graduated high school, I thought I wanted to be a tornado chaser.
Maybe they should stop cloud seeding, but that's another story. Sorry, guys. Sorry, COVID did it. COVID opened me up, woke me up, unfortunately. I was down a rabbit hole once upon a time. Now I'm stuck down there. Tell us about your time with Pete in Australia, your friendship that built, and then obviously the Austrian girl, Kati, and not leaving any stones unturned for getting a good pose.
Oh, yeah. So Australia was a fun time. That was the longest international flight I've ever been on.
It was a long stay too. We didn't think you were going to leave.
It was. So we did 2 weeks. And when we found out when Kat was competing in Sydney, we decided we were going to do a road trip down, but we were going to break it up. So it was about a 10-hour road trip. So we flew in, we spent 2 days to kind of recover and get adjusted back to the time change. And then we did a 2-day road trip down to Sydney, and we would stop at locations on the way and do some posing. We spent, I think, 3 or 4 days in Sydney. And then the day after Katty competed, we met up with her, and all 3 of us just spent the entire day like hanging out in Sydney. We went to a couple different beaches and nature spots. We accidentally stumbled on a nude beach and was like, "Oh, probably don't want to do posing stuff here." I'm like,
I was actually messaging Cardi a few days ago because she was posting the breakfast, and I said, "Are you still frying yogurt?" Because we did a podcast, and she said she didn't know how to say fridge. Like I put my yogurt in the fridge, something like, I don't know how it was. And she goes,
Freezer.
Huh?
Freezer.
On the freezer, something about freezer, something she makes and put in the freezer, yogurt. I don't know how it worked. And I said, she goes, yeah, and I fried my yogurt. And I went, fry your yogurt? What the fuck is that? And it was, we started laughing when she realized we're talking about freezing yogurt, but she did an ice cream with it. I can't, but I asked her again, has she fried her yogurt? And she laughed and said, yes. Yeah.
She's so sweet.
Yeah, she's sweet. She's quite amazing too, bodybuilder. So yeah, you guys definitely look like there was the wolf pack. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, but speaking about the wolf pack, how is breaking boundaries going and taking posing beyond the stage? Tell me about that. And also tell me about the wolf, that werewolf outfit and the idea behind it, that the one with the mittens and well, they weren't mittens, but you look like Wolverine. You look like a Wolverine. What's going on?
So the podcast is going, I mean, I guess it's super in its infancy. So I don't really know if I can say that it's going well or whatnot. It's just gotten started. I recorded my second.
Be real. It's good.
I recorded my second podcast last weekend and was going to do editing this week, but then obviously I was in the hospital longer than I expected. So I'll edit it tomorrow and try to get my second episode out. I guess third episode out Sunday. But it's been fun. The two guys that I had that are friends of mine that I've interviewed, we had a really good time, especially even just catching up to each other over the podcast and just talking about different things that we love with posing. So I'm excited to see where it goes. Just right now, I'm just learning. I've never done a podcast before. So it's kind of a learning curve.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I think it's great.
as far as the werewolf, though, so there was I guess there was like a little bit of pettiness backstory to the wolf.
Right.
So I really wanted to do a Halloween. I had an idea for a Halloween posing routine, but I heard this song, You Created a Monster, and one of my first posing coaches I had was a female, and it didn't go very well. We don't really talk at all. I respect her a lot as an artist, but just personality wise, I think we just clash. But anyway, a lot of things that she did pushed me to become a better poser. It was kind of one of those moments where you have somebody you look up to really bad and they make you feel like shit, and it's either you can quit or you can feel that to decide to jump in and get better at it. And so I did. And I got to a point where I don't know, I just felt like I was posing really well. I feel like I could keep up with her if I wanted to, like if we ever posed together or had to compete against each other as far as like having decent routines. And so this Halloween song came on, and it was called You Created a Monster. So it was like you created a monster, but like with posing. And then when I used the wolf, I decided to use the wolf because she always called herself the lone wolf.
Oh, okay.
That was like just a little bit of a poke.
Oh God, the online poke. Right. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. No experts here, but I feel that I need to, with your podcast, I'm going to give you a tip. And we've been doing it for a short time, so I'm not an expert. Let's just go no expert. I think the only reason it's working is because we've committed a day to podcasting and a week to the editing. So in other words, there's no negotiation on filming day, which is, even though we had you on Tuesday, we did move, we're flexible. Our Tuesday, your Monday, your Thursday, we're Friday. But regardless we moved you, we're still going to do one this week. So
Right.
if we didn't do you, we'll find someone if it cancelled. So
Right.
we're adamant rather than saying, oh, let's just skip it. That's how your podcast's not going to work. When you go, oh, we'll do it. I don't know when, but we'll do another one. Then you might as well just shut the shop. You have to know that you are either every fortnight, once a month, or once a week. Whatever you decide, your calendar's built on those numbers. Does that make sense? We were doing one stage. We were doing once 2, 3, 4 podcasts a week, and we were. Well, Chris wanted to kill me, and I was getting podcast fatigue. And in the end, we went down to just one. Sometimes we throw in 2. We have done 2 on the odd occasion. But that's my tip to you, that there's no let's talk about it again. There's just this is the date, this is the day, and this is the time. Is it every 2 weeks, once a week, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, whatever it is you decide? You know, oh my God, we just did one. I've got to do one in 2 weeks. Oh my God, I did one. I've got to do one in a month. Oh my God, I did one. I've got to do one next week. So if you don't do that, again, I'm no expert, but what I've realized, that's how podcasts work. It's not the podcast, it's the commitment to the podcast.
Perfect. Yeah, I started with deciding to put a new one out every other week because I figured slower start, that gives me time to spread out the people that I know are going to commit and try to let it build. And then that way too, as I was learning, it would give me more time in between to edit as well. So it's like, usually when I release one, I'm basically interviewing a person within a few days of the last released episode. So then I have plenty of time to get the next one out.
Well, yeah, we're actually, your podcast will be loaded in 4 to 6 weeks. That's how far ahead we are. We're 6 podcasts ahead. So we have to be, because Chris might decide he wants to go for a European holiday, or we need something to protect us. And then when we're behind, we'll catch up. We'll do 2 podcasts in the week. So look, I'm no expert, guys. Don't ever think Steve's an expert. He just knows it all. He just knows it all.
Consistency
is everything. So where we're going next? Well, what comp's next? What are we competing? What's the next comp?
So we don't have one right now. We're kind of navigating a lot at the moment. So we're trying to get me, as long as everything goes well, the next week or so, I should be back. I should be off of a lifting restriction in 6 weeks. And then we'll go into an off season. And then from there, we'll have to gain back. We'll have to gain back some ground just from some mass I'm going to have lost from these last couple months.
Okay, that's all right. So probably no comping this year, maybe it's a 2025.
No, I'm guessing it's going to be at least one, if not possibly a couple years before I'm back on stage again. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it goes.
Okay. What about the posing from Mankind? What are we going to do? What's happening there?
Oh, that's going to keep going. I actually have to start working on a routine. I'm excited about it. I finally got a guest post opportunity at a seminar not too far from a town kind of close to where I live. So it's going to be in about 2.5 weeks. So I feel like I have to adjust what I'm going to do just based on activity. The routine I wanted to do, just because of what happened at the hospital, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it off. I think I'm still going to be a little too sore. So I'm going to make a new one, but I sent the woman that's basically like co-hosting the seminar the song today, and she loved it. So I'll start working on building it probably tomorrow, and then start running it maybe here in a week or so, once I'm back to moving around without feeling like I got punched in the gut.
You got great shoulders, by the way. Got good arms.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going into another interesting topic time. Just before we get into the body, okay?
Yeah.
You ready? Why aren't relationships lasting? Marriages not lasting the test of time. If we go by current statistics, it's not favorable to get married. And if I was a betting man and someone told me the stats, I'd be losing my money. So what's going on? Why are relationships lasting, marriages lasting? Why the stats so bad?
I mean, based just on my faith beliefs and with how the relationship I'm in now, how it is and how we operate in it, I just think it's just because God isn't in the center of it for me, like personally.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So we need
For
a
me,
great force beside the two of us, besides two people.
Yeah. So for me, it's like almost like a 3-person ordeal. You've got you and your significant other, you and your spouse, and then it's like you got Christ at the head of it. And so if I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do to be more Christ-like, I'm also going to have more of a servant attitude. So I guess even if you're not a spiritual person, I would say the thing that's missing is just servant attitudes from both sides. People go into marriage, I think, not looking at the long term. I know I didn't, but like the person that you're marrying, they're not going to stay that person. They're going to change, and you don't know what they're going to change into. So it's basically like, are you willing to dig your feet in and like be along for that ride? And then I also think too, it's just become so easy now for people just to give up and go to the next best thing, because like seems easier to just give up on something that is a little tough than to actually like stick in and put the work in the first place.
Yeah. What about you, Chris?
I don't think I have comments on that.
You don't have a comment on this?
No, I don't think so.
Well,
But I agree with that. Like, it's easy to give up.
Okay. Well, to put my 2 cents in, because I'm a know-it-all, right? I think, one, it's true. I think let's say it's not God. Let's just take God out of it for a second, and you are Mother Nature, you're spirit, the universe, whatever you are. If you don't have a higher power than yourself to be able to police yourself, and if you don't have the mentality to give, because what I've realized in relationships is, let's pretend me and you, Robbi, are in a relationship. Let's say you gave to me. See? Whoop, I lost that cup. 1 sec. Give me the cup, Chris. Got the cup? Here we go. This is a cup, and you gave it to me. I go, oh my God, thank you, Robbi. That's a wonderful cup. And I go, Robbi, here's a highlighter. Now, wait a minute. We both received. But let's say you hung on to that cup and I hung on to this highlighter, but I just waited. Until Robbi gives to me, then I'll give to her. So what happens? We've got a void. Everyone just waits. Just give and give and give and give. Because guess what happens? When you realize this person's never going to give, you can leave. You leave because there's no return on investment. Like when I say return on investment, I'm talking about like you got no value, you got nothing, you end up with nothing. But when I keep giving to Robbi, Robbi's receiving, and she gives to me and I'm receiving. We're actually getting. So that's one. And two, I don't think anyone is built like the Europeans. Hear me out. The Europeans, I'm Greek background, and Chris is Macedonian. I don't know if you have a European background yourself, but I'll just let you know. We like to scream at each other. We just love it. We just love to scream at each other over everything. And that's why I think nobody enjoys a good argument. Like, you don't understand. It's not all rainbows and, like Rocky said, and unicorns. It is a debate. It is an argument, but it's not a walk away argument. It's not, I'm leaving you. No one came in the room and said, I had a hard day at the office today or work, and this guy pushed me and I punched him in the face, and your spouse says, that's ridiculous what you did. You're so aggressive. And you go, no, but I know I did, but this and this, and we can argue about it, but not to the point where you become spiteful, where you.
Yeah.
and I think that's what society's become. We're all Nancy's. We can't. I enjoy a good argument. I don't know about you. I do enjoy a good debate. Again, being a bit mature, I know if my partner or even Chris in business walks away and says, fuck you, under their breath, I think good because we had a great argument. It's great. But don't leave. I don't need you to leave. You know what I mean? I don't need you to quit. We had an argument. So I think we don't argue anymore. We don't argue well anymore. We don't debate anymore. We're not allowed to have a moment of,
Well, it's like the pendulum effect that people talk about. Like it will swing one way for a certain amount of time, and then next thing you know, it gets swung, like over swings in the opposite direction. Like abuse is bad.
Oh, no.
The way is bad.
Abuse to kids, abuse to partners, and everything like that, yes.
Yeah, but it's like we've now swung it completely to the other direction to where it's like,
yes.
Well, if you're just arguing, then clearly you're not meant to be. And it's like, no, like it's okay to be and not
arguing's
like,
abuse. You're a narcissist. You're everything, and you're just debating. You're a narcissist for debating me. Oh, you're abusing me because you're debating me. And
and not everybody's a narcissist. Like just because they don't agree with you.
Yeah, that's right. So that's my theory, that we've forgotten to give, which is serve, maybe whatever it is. And everything is reciprocation. So we measure it. We're all measured. We're mistaken, hear me out, sorry. We're mistaken sex as love when everything is love and sex. Everything's love. So don't think because you missed out for a day or two or a week, they're not loving you. That's one. And lastly, like I said, have a good argument, man. Let's get in there. Let's have an argument. Let's have a scramble. Let's be European. What do you reckon, Chris? Huh? Yeah. I bet your mum and dad have some good ones.
Oh, we all do.
I love it.
Are you fat up or fed up? Tired of boring food? We just cooked this from our What Should I Eat cookbook. It's also on an ebook, making it more affordable for you. So,
get your copy at threeog.shop.
All right, we're going to go over the body now, Robbi. So, so body is that I'm going to ask you, I'm going to tell you a body part. You're going to give me an exercise, sets of reps, and it's constant, sets of reps. Okay, so give you an example, bicep, I might say, what am I doing at the moment? Hammer curls. All right, I'm doing hammer curls, and I'll do 3 sets, and I do 12, but I try to now take it down to 8 to 10. I'm trying to really I'm trying to get a pump. Like I'm more, so that's what I do at the moment. I could have said 18 in the past, but right now, if I did 12, I'll load up because I want to see if I can get to 10 and 12 still, and then I'll load up and then finish with maybe 8. Try to get to 10 again. So that's what I'd say. So we're going to go over the body. So let's start with, which most people say no to, traps. Do you train them? And do you train them? What would be the exercise? What would be the tip?
I mean, no, I don't. But if you were, I would say lateral raises above parallel.
What? That's new. So you're talking about going to this position and then go up and back here, up and back.
No,
here.
I would just train them. I would just train them when you do lateral raises, but go up above parallel. Once you get to this point, now you're actually like working your trap muscle.
So you're talking about killing 2 birds with 1 stone?
Mm-hmm.
How many reps, how many sets?
It's hard when you do that because it kind of depends. You're hitting the coach part of me where I'm like, there's so many factors to go to this. I don't like blanket statements.
Yeah, but we've got people that are on your podcast and maybe they're interested in listening to what you've got to say, but we've really just got to allow them. We're just giving them an exercise. They're not going to build traps just by you alone, but you're kind of saying to them, try this.
You know, I'd say then just basic. I'd say 2 working sets within a rep, like a rep or 2 of failure.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. All right, so wherever you're going to, go another 2 and 2 working sets. Okay. Since we're onto the subject of shoulders, let's go with the side delts.
And then yeah, side delts, lateral raises all day.
It's like just don't go above. Don't go above. Don't go too high.
Yeah, you can stop parallel to the floor.
Sets and reps. Sets and reps.
We'll stick with 2 working sets. If you're going to failure, just stick with 2 working sets, and then reps. I'd say like 8 to 10.
Wow. Okay. Front delts.
Front delts. I would train them on a shoulder press. Like, just use a basic shoulder press.
I'm actually doing shoulder press for front delts, but I'm also doing front raises. But okay, sets and reps on front raises.
Again, I'm just gonna go basic. I'm gonna go basic working sets, actual working sets. Go with 2, and then I would go 6 to 8 repetitions on these.
Well, also the reason we keep asking sets and reps is because when Chris breaks up the podcast onto, say, socials, we may bring up a body part on there. We're not going to go through all of them on Meta, or even on YouTube. We might do a short. Even though the podcast says everything, that's why I have to keep asking sets and reps.
Okay.
There's a reason behind our madness. Back delts.
Rear flies.
Bent over. Oh, that one. Back there flies. Yeah, rear flies. Yeah. Sets and reps. You can't say failure and working sets. It's okay. It works.
2 sets, 12 to 15.
Okay. Tell me something. Does anybody do, Chris, you can tell me as well, does anybody do shoulder press but behind the back, behind the neck? Does anyone do that anymore?
I don't think so.
I used to do it. It's a very 90s, 80s, 90s move, but everyone's moved it to the front now. But nobody does behind the neck.
It's because of the research now, where like when your shoulder gets locked into this position, it's it's the risk versus reward kind of deal. Like,
right.
You can get just as much going in front, and you're not putting your shoulder in a position that it's going to set you up for more possibility of an injury.
Yeah, well, I had to really do some therapy on myself to stop doing that, but I have stopped it for a while now. But
the same thing with like behind the head lat pull downs.
Yeah, what's going on there? Tell me, please. Is there something we're doing wrong there?
I mean, it's something similar too, like the way that you're putting this. I can't remember what like the specific term it is, but it's like a fixed position that your shoulder's in. That it's like the torque that's on the joint itself is really setting you up to put a lot of extra unnecessary pressure on the joint, to where if you keep it forward, I mean, anyway, if you're behind the head, you're not really in the best profile for your lats anyway. So you're going to want to be up a little bit in front of you, because if you think about different things that your lats is going to be responsible for, is pulling the arm in and then also extending it. So if you're not in a position to where you can do that, like, you're not going to get the most bang for your buck out of working that muscle.
I've learned something.
Yeah.
After 40 podcasts, we finally learned something. All right, let's go to back.
Which part?
Just the back. You choose it. One back exercise. Sets and reps.
Man, I get one. I'd probably do rows, supported rows.
Yep.
2 working sets, 8 to 10 reps.
Okay. What about chest?
I like flies. So cable flies with a little bit of internal rotation.
Incline or flat?
Ooh. Actually, I would just do I like a little bit of incline. I like a little bit of incline. So I would do a little bit of an incline fly with cable.
Like I said, some of the stuff that's changed when I look back at some of the bodybuilders, some of the meat and potato ones, everything was flat. Everyone was behind the neck. It's changed so much. Everything's been modified. Did we say how many sets of reps on that?
Keep it the same. Do 2 sets, 8 to 12 reps.
Okay. Chest.
We just did chest. We did flies, incline flies.
Oh, bloody hell, back. Did we do back as well? We did back.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I think you shocked me with not putting the pull downs behind my lateral pull downs behind my head. Like, it's changing. I've got to let that go. Bicep.
I like preacher curls. Preacher curls.
Sets reps.
2 sets, 10 to 12 reps.
Tricep.
Extensions with the little.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if
yeah.
I do the ropes, I don't get as good of an extension out of it. I start using my shoulders more too, to where if I have the bar, it's easier to keep the separation, the extension.
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that. How many sets and reps?
Same. 2 sets. I'll go 12, 15 reps on that one.
Do you train? I mean, you probably don't, but that's just bring it up. Forearms?
Nah.
No, we did that in the 90s. Stable. Abs.
I like the ab roller.
Oh, rolling forward, rolling back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. How many of those?
3 sets, 15.
Okay. Yeah. Quads.
I like using the pendulum squat.
Have you done a pendulum squat? Have you used it?
Yeah.
I never use a pendulum.
Yeah. I like sumo squats as well.
Sumo
squats.
Sumo squats. What is it? Why is the pendulum squat so talked about at the moment? What is it about it?
My dog just tried to break in the door.
Yes. Dog can come in once.
It's a couple different things. So part of it is the way that the weight profile is set up on the machine. So as you're getting into the lower position, which is really harder to get out of because of the way that it moves, it actually takes some of they talk about like the moment arm changing. I'm not going to get into the sciencey shit of that. So basically what happens is as you get deeper into the squat, it gets harder. But the way that the machine's designed, it compensates for that. So like you can get more out of the top of the exercise loaded, and it's going to take some of that off from the bottom. It just like evens the strength curve. The other thing it does is the way that the back's set up. It's a lot more comfortable to brace into and then get a full range of motion out of without feeling as stuck. Like I really like hack squats too, but the way that it moves, if you don't have that range of motion, it can be hard to get into, or you might not be able to. And I feel like the pendulum squat allows you more freedom with how the platform's set up to where you can change it to make it work better for you.
How many sets and reps?
Ooh, 2 sets, 6 to 8 reps. Make it heavy.
Oh, that's it. I'm already hurting. What's her name? Chelsea. Was it Chelsea last week? I think we had Chelsea on. Not last, maybe it was Chelsea, who's an open bodybuilder, who's open and been to Olympia with top placings 8th and 9th in the opens. She said with squats, because I'm using the it's called Smith. What do you call the ones where Smith machine? Is the Smith machine where it's all set up, the bar and everything? Is that right? Smith machine. I'm doing squats with the Smith machine, and she said to put weight underneath your heels, lift your heels up, and squat all the way down, because she goes, you get more stretch in the quad, like it opens up the quad a lot more down low, and to push up on.
It can be that. Sometimes it can also help too with mobility. If people don't
Yeah.
have enough mobility, bumping your heel up a little bit, it takes away the need to have it, so you can get deeper into it as well.
Yeah, well, that's my tip. Might as well tell you 3 sets. 12. There you go. Hammies.
Like seated hamstring curls.
Yeah.
2 sets.
And how many
8 to
sets
10
reps?
reps.
Okay. Calves.
I think the one that I like the best is the calf machine, but the weight is at your hips.
Oh.
These those, they're like a tilted machine.
No.
But I like to use those. And then sets and reps, I'd say 2 sets. I'd say 12 to 15 on those. A little bit higher, just because if I try to do something heavier in the hypertrophy range, I can't feel it in my calf as much. So I like to go a little higher with those, so I make sure I'm feeling it in the muscle properly.
Did we say sets and reps on that?
2 sets, 12 to 15 reps.
What about tibialis? Do we train the tibialis?
I mean, seated calf raises.
Oh, well, there's one at the gym that makes you tuck your foot in and lift it. So it works in tibialis. It's quite an interesting machine. I find it quite useful. I do give it a go. And I'll just let you know.
Or bands. If you take bands and loop them around a seated bench, and then loop it with your foot, and lift your foot back on that one too. Okay.
Would you do 3 sets? 15, 10 to 15. 2 working sets. You know.
I mean, I would probably honestly use that as kind of like a warm up. I don't really think of it as like a huge hypertrophy, more of stability, but
yeah.
I'd probably say, I'd probably just do like 3 in a warm up.
Okay. And glutes. Glutes.
You said glute?
Glute, yeah, glutes.
It's Romanian deadlifts.
How many sets, reps?
2 with those. Can I caveat the reps on this one?
What was that? Oh, you don't want to put the reps out there?
I said, can I make a caveat on the reps on this one?
Yeah.
So I would say 6 to 10, but wherever you go in that, you have to make sure you're not pulling with your back. And you have to be able to really focus on squeezing your glutes as you're pushing your hips forward and you're driving that movement with your hips rather than your upper body. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with that exercise. So if you can't feel it that well, go a little bit higher rep on that. Like go higher, 12 to 15. But if you feel like you've got that mind muscle connection really well, then take it heavy. Say go 6 to 10.
And that's hip thrust, yeah?
No, I do Romanian deadlifts.
I Romanian deadlifts. Oh, wow. Okay.
I've actually never used hip thrust or anything like that in a training program ever.
We were talking about it last week, and we realized sometimes when the guys do it, it's a little bit, what was the word we used? What? Zesty. A bit zesty. I think when guys are doing hip thrusts, maybe it's just not us. Yeah, it's zesty. You did it this morning, Chris. God, look at you. Chris is quite zesty himself. What? Well, it's time for you to promote yourself. Time for you to tell the world where we can find you, your services, whatever it is. So, and tag you in. So, go for it.
All right. So if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm mostly active on there, and that's at Latosaurus Flex. I also have a YouTube channel that is called Revived by Art. And that's where I also have videos for breaking boundaries, which is also you can find on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You find me.
Awesome. Well, I want to say to you, thank you so much. It's been in the making, actually. We've definitely, from November till now, we've been hovering around each other. But it's been a pleasure watching you. And like I said, I love watching your art and your expression and your stories. And yeah, I'm team Robbi Jenkins for sure. So I just
Thank
want to
you.
say that. No problem.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.